where Lucille Wanamaker's house is
Well,
now, just
yeah.
about. I mean, hers is farther back on the
He
lot.
owned all of that. He owned all of that valley and everything, and it was apple trees. He had apple trees. He sold apples. And I don't think he ever had a wife. There was just Mr. Davis. But I've been in that house. I went in, that's called the Chisholm House. And
Mr. K.J. Davis is one that owned it and had it for sale in the Saluda magazine.
yeah, well, it was
in
the
the
Chisholm
30s.
House. Yeah, well, it was the Chisholm House when I came to
There are Chisholms in Savannah, but, and I think it was somebody from Savannah named Chisholm. If I'm not, but I'm not sure of
Well,
that.
they call that Chisholm
Street.
And that's the reason. Because
Don't
that's,
you know that was a fantastic view out this little gazebo?
Well, you could look down and try and pick.
Crown Peak.
Yeah, well, have you ever been on the back porch of Lucille Wanamaker's? Oh, it's
Well,
just
that's
beautiful.
approximately where
That's
this
where it is. That's what I say, yeah. Oh, I love that. Now, what is that?
This is the Berry Thompson house, Francis Asbury Thompson. This
Never had been painted.
is located out beyond 26. It was torn down in the 40s, and there wasn't a nail in the house. It was pegged together.
Oh, what a
and
shame.
this is where the first Tryon post office was.
Oh.
And then after the railroad came through, when it came through this part down here where Tryon is now, they call that Tryon City.
That's right, yes. I remember hearing about
1834
this.
was when this post office was established as Tryon out here. Then they moved, after the railroad came and Saluda got the post office, they discontinued this one and let Tryon have the name of Tryon instead of Tryon City.
Now, would this be as though you went right out the joint, whatever you call it, joiner road out there to beyond I-26 Connector Road?
On the other side of the motel.
This
And
would be.
Sherman's troops spent the night on the grounds of this house. They come up through that Hired Gap, the old stagecoach, old Macedonia Road, old Hired Gap Road. And this is that house that's set in Gables.
Oh, that's the house I was telling you about. That's the house that the Hewitts owned. They were from England. And I did a picture. I went out and did a drawing of that one time. Doesn't look too much like it because...
Now, that's out near Macedonia, is that in that
Yes,
direction?
and
And that's the one that anesthesiologist and his wife have bought,
yeah,
is
and
it?
you know what happens out there? Do you know what happens?
No.
I'm not, don't you ever tell them. The people who bought that thing from the Sanders, they broke into it and they stole the the washing machine, the stove. They took the big clock out of it. They took the rugs off the floor. It has been broken into I don't know how many times, and those people sold it. They had a man to move out there in a trailer, and he couldn't even get the people. They broke in that house all the time.
People are living in it now.
I
Yeah.
had charge of it. Jesse was working for me, and they just broke into all the time. And this is the strangest thing. This I don't remember all of these chimneys. I remember this one, and I remember this one. And I made a big. You saw that roof where I did that big tree. I changed it because I couldn't get this like I wanted, so I just changed it. You know, but that's it, and that's the back of it. The front of it looks. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's the. Let's see. Is that the back?
What do they call that? Copisa? Or cot?
Wait a minute.
C-O-P-I-S-A.
Wait a minute.
Copsia?
I told you about that. You remember what I told you. Hewitts, Mr. and Miss Hewitt came here from England, and
That was what you were telling me about on the phone.
Yeah,
That's
and,
right. I told you not to tell me on the phone. I'd forgotten,
I'll
so
tell
I
it
get it. Yeah.
Miss Lillian Harriet lived to be almost 100, you know, she's 90-something. And I would go over and talk to her, and she told me this. The Hewitts moved into America from England because his wife had been divorced, and they would ostracize people in England when they were divorced, you know. So he brought his wife and came. Now, how he found Saluda, I don't know. But he came here, and apparently the Sanders, now, you may know this, Charlene, was the Sanders man a judge or was he a lawyer? You see, the Sanders. And he lived out there, and he planted all those trees. He had a big barn, and he had a shay with horses, and had everything, you know, and
Had a carriage.
had a carriage and everything. And And if you look out, I'll show you the picture I did of it sometime. From the front, if you look out, you saw all the beautiful mountains there. It's just gorgeous, great big lawn. I used to go to parties out there.
Fitzsimmons got a story about that.
And
House of Seven Gables.
I never had heard it called that. But anyway, she died. And Miss Lillian said that they used to have a lot of tea parties way back then, and she said she'd been to a lot of tea parties with the Hewitts, Mrs. Hewitt. And then something happened to her, and she died. And this is very interesting. The living room he was very interested in horses. So the living room fireplace is shaped like a horseshoe.
Oh,
like
I love that.
It's like that and comes down like that,
Mm-hmm.
And so then he went back to England. And I think he must have left all of his furniture and everything. And they said that he jumped off and killed it. He committed suicide on the way. And then the Sanders got it. And I can't quite understand whether he must have had a lawyer. And I don't know whether the Sanders man was a judge or a lawyer. You knew Mr. Cor Sanders. Did you know Mr. Cor Sanders? Mm-hmm. Well, she and her brother lived there when I came here. Oh, they were just lovely. She was just a darling, this thing. And I got all this from them and from Miss Lillian. Miss Lillian Herrick told me. And she knew the Hewitts. And
Now, when was it built just about then?
well, I never did ask Miss Lillian that, but I tell
I'll find
you.
that story because Fitzsimmons tells. in
Oh,
his book.
all right.
Does he tell about what I'm telling you? Well, I tell you, there's a bed upstairs. And one time we were out there at a tea or party or something, and Mr. Cor happened to mention, George Washington slept here in this building one time, in this bed. And we had to all rush upstairs to see it. and, now...
Oh, of course, it couldn't have been, because it couldn't have been built then. This wasn't.
Well, anyway, that's...
This is a postcard of the baby hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Ruth owns CDs.
These are baby hospital.
Ruth?
Now, this was the Spartanburg Baby Hospital, not the Smith.
This is Dr. Smith right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's Lassane and Kit over there on the right. Could it be?
You're in this picture. You better come here.
I might be in that picture.
Right here's Ruth, right there. This is the nurses at the hospital.
Where do you think I am? That's about 100 years before.
There's Dr. Smith. There's Dr. Smith.
Ruth's probably that little one with the bob here, the little girl.
I was about that size.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
No, I was
just
yeah,
kidding.
I
I'm
was
just kidding.
No, I was 19 years old when I worked at that. First time 20 years ago. I've got some pictures. Weighed about 96 pounds.
There's Dr.
There he is.
with the baby.
He looks like Kit. That Kit is the most.
You know, I get them mixed up. They look so much alike. I get them mixed up. Now, who is that?
That is Dr. Lassane Smith, isn't it?
That's Dr. Smith when he started the seminar. Let's see if I have that. Yeah, here's some more. Seminar doctors.
That's Nettie right there. That's Nettie.
Oh,
And,
yes.
yeah, that's Nettie. And
Well, Lassane and
husband.
wait a minute, they ought to be in there. Lassane and Kit ought to be in there somewhere. I don't see him though.
I think these are in.
you know who I
Fort
think's in there is the doctor in Spartanburg.
Lassane?
No, Elmore. Is he in there?
Hank's sister Lou had a crush on Sammy Elmore.
Oh.
Here's some more, yeah, of the seminar. And this is in that Saluda magazine too.
The first time I worked over at a private hospital, and the next time I lived in a nursing home.
Oh, there's the Elmore.
Well, that's the Mr. Bradley.
No, this is Billy Morris.
Billy Morris. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Century
right. It
Oak
was.
Fire.
Oh, yes, that's right. You're right. That's Morris. Yeah.
This is
That's
Debbie.
it. That's it. Because I went out there
That's a picture of him with his fiddle
with
and his dog. I wonder what happened to the fiddle.
And the dog.
And, well, the dog died.
No.
Now that's written up in one of the Saluda magazines.
Yeah.
This is, Ed Leland had gotten him a battery radio, after they came back from New York. He said it's awfully lonesome out there, so they gave him this radio. The Philco dealer from Charlotte gave it to him. This is a picture of him when he was on New York radio.
Yeah, he went up there and told about the Century Fire.
That
you
We
know.
the People, yeah.
Mhm. Pace's Ridge.
That was the name of Saluda, wasn't it?
Have you got Mr. Herbert Pace's 50 years of Saluda? Have you got that?
I've got it right over here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
Now, what is that?
This is on Ed Bud Pace with part of them 29 children.
That's what I thought. Yes, that's right. Now, right over there is our house. Back over that way on the next ridge.
Where was
on the
that
next
house,
ridge.
Charlie?
Right down behind us.
Down behind where
where?
they live now.
Right down behind us. This is JB with the dog. This is Mother and Daddy. This is Bud that lives in Crown. This is Odell. Horace and Jean and Louise.
You know what Horace told me one time? He said that his father, had 29 children.
Well, that's
Yeah,
Charlene's
I know.
father.
Well, I tell you what, that's Daddy Hart, because and I can tell you something about Daddy Hart too. He was the undertaker, and he was living in this brick building right down here. And when anybody died, well, they brought a couple, a boy and a girl, in a truck down there, in the back of a truck, and he had the cutest little what I want to say.
Coffin?
No.
We have to give them something.
White thing
I'm not following you.
the little white thing you put caskets in to carry them to the grave.
Oh, yes. Hers.
Had the
That's
cutest
right.
little white thing, and they let it stay out there, and it rusted away. It was the darlingest
Drawn
thing.
by a horse. or a car.
Yeah, I think, and I was here, and there's a Lover's Lane out here. Do you know about that? Well, there's a place out that way that's called Lover's Lane, and people have been killed out there. Girls and boys go out there and kill themselves. And anyway, the QC Sana, that lived right in front of me here, he killed a girl, a summer girl from Charlotte, and they were out
Cold
there.
Mountain.
Well, that's called Lover's Lane out there.
How did he kill her?
Shot her, and
no.
shot her, and then shot himself. And I can tell you all kinds of things about that. They dug his grave up. They didn't think he was dead. Beatty Hall and a bunch of men went out there, and dug the grave up to see if he was in the casket. And then and Daddy Hart's, he didn't embalm her or anything, but he prepared them right down here in this building. And I was living. I'd rented that house right up there. My husband, that's when Deaderick was here building the road. And they brought a boy and a girl in the back of a truck down there. He had killed the girl and killed himself out there. And so they called it Lover's Lane.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, somebody was talking about, now who was that you just had on there?
I thought maybe she'd tell us who it is.
That's Mr. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Go back a little bit. Oh, that's. Can you
Go back to where we left off.
There.
No. Well.
Okay. Who's that?
There. That's Daddy Hart. And the next one, that's
Mr. Capps.
Mr. Capps.
That was
That's
Mr. Capps, too.
Leighton Capps. He was the mayor.
He was the mayor, and he owned the store where Lola Ward is. That was his store.
Oh,
Wasn't he in with Lola? Capps and Lola together? Weren't they? No. He
Well,
was in with Sonas.
Sonner and Capps.
Yeah, Sonas. And the Sonner boy is the one that killed the girl. And they lived right in this house down here. And I don't know who that is.
This is Newman, the police chief.
Well, I never knew him. Bob
oh
knew.
yes, he
Bob
is.
Newman.
I
See
didn't
his
know.
badge?
And his wife and son,
Well,
Rodney.
look at that thing the way the son's dressed. Look at that. High shoes and everything. Isn't
We
that
have
cute?
pictures of my brothers and
Isn't that something?
And
Now that's Mr. Lauder. Now that's Jesse's father, Ruth. That's Jesse. He was a real good policeman. He used to be a bootlegger.
Oh, that's the kind of
He
place.
killed a man down
This
the
is,
depot.
this is a picture of
Shot
him
him.
too. That's Beatty Hall on the backside and
Now where is Beatty?
standing right under where it says department
with the hat on.
on the
I
back.
don't
And
see
that's
that.
Mr. Lauder. Ernest Thompson and Ott Hip and Lolly Fisher.
I remember that fire engine.
Yeah.
And I remember the
That's
fire
all on
department
the
was
back.
there.
Who is that? Is that,
Ain't that Ernest Thompson?
it is?
That's Odd Hip up there with the black hat.
Right here,
Yeah.
yeah. And this is Mr. Lawler. Is that Beatty Hall?
Yes, Beatty.
Beatty Hall. That's down in front of the front,
Yeah. This is Lolly over here.
there, or there,
That's Lolly.
right here.
I forgot the other two. I'll have to
This
look.
is, the,
That's how it looked when
Yeah,
I...
that's how it looked when I came to Saluda too.
well,
No, that's the City Hall and Police Department. This is Miss Viner.
it sure is.
Now
And
who's Miss Viner?
well, she had a rug shop, and she taught puff weaving.
Oh.
She
And
taught
she-
dying and
Oh
This-
yes,
this
this
is the
came
back.
out of the magazine, didn't it? I saw that. Yeah, I remember.
and she moved, I can tell you something about her too, sometime you want to write it down.
And this is Mr. Gordon. They called him Fiddle Maker. He made fiddles, and his granddaughter's got
Oh,
the
now that was in the magazine, right? Mhm.
This is his wife, Miss Gordon.
I didn't know that.
That's at Corwith. This is,
Mr. Collis.
he was the North Carolina horticulture.
And the first apple festival that was ever given around here, Saluda had it. He put it on.
my
And then
goodness.
Saluda take it, Hendersonville took it away from us. So put that in there, because the very first one was held in Saluda.
Here's our famous,
You know who that is? That's
Oh yes, it's.
Pat Hingle and,
Oh,
and
it looks like Babe Ruth, but I guess it is.
This is Pat Hingle, and that's his mother, and this is his sister. Is that
that's Sarah.
Sarah? Sarah? And who is that?
That's somebody from Flat Rock Playhouse.
Oh, this was made recently, huh?
Yeah, you remember when he was at the Playhouse? Didn't you go up to...
Yeah. Yeah.
He may come. He's going to send us some memories of Saluda, and he may come to our
Now who is
centennial.
Pat Hingle?
He's a TV star. He's a Broadway star. He's
He's an actor.
in television.
Now his
Shows how little I watch TV.
his grandfather
This
is
is
the
at
one
Flat
that
Rock
was the
Playhouse.
conductor on the Helper. His grandfather
Oh,
was
I
his
see.
grandfather, Pattis, and that's his mother. And I'll
He
tell
was
y'all
a-
something funny. She plays the piano, and there was a girl here in town that played the violin, and she came up singing when I first came here, and I was real thin. I weighed about 105 pounds, I think, and I was mad, something like that. And she said, Mrs. Kirk, do you have an evening dress that I could wear? They were going to have a concert over at the schoolhouse. And I had a pink evening dress that was on the boss, you know, and she got in that thing. I don't see how she got in it. I never will forget that.
She certainly doesn't look as though she could have gotten in a
Well,
swimming.
she even looks fatter than that now. I saw her when he was up at the Playhouse, and I went up there for 2 different
Well,
times.
she lives in Hendersonville now.
Well, she lives in Florida.
Oh, now
doesn't she?
who are these two? I've known. Oh,
That's Jack and Charles Wood.
Oh, that's.
That's Thompson's Delivery.
Oh,
That's Jack and Charlie. Isn't
that's
it
cute. That's a darling picture. Oh, I love that too.
That's Press Patterson.
That's Preston. You know, I told you about him. His mother was a, grandson of.
Mama's nephew.
Now, who is that? Jack?
Carlton. Leland. Carlton Leland.
Oh, Carlton. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Who's that?
Oh, Charlene, that's my children. This little dog was Dimitri. I'd read the book, you know, and I called him Dimitri, you know, from the book. And that's Rodney. See, I told you. And that's Bill. And he had a little car that would, he pedaled it. He
Oh, I
pedaled it.
love that. Yeah.
Look at his sock. Look at his little sock. Oh, my. I didn't know you were going to do that. But anyway, that's the garage. That was the garage. Not, I wasn't living here then. Now that's cute. City of Saluda presents. Oh. Let's see if I know. I know who this is. This is Jackie Coates. This is Edgerton baby. That's Raymond's, Kathleen Sing's little boy.
Joe
That's
Raymond.
Timmy Pace. This is, isn't that Jesse's
AG.
AG. This is, let's see.
That's
This
the...
is the little Cooper girl. And,
Yep.
And Cooper.
And
And Jackie Coates. Let's see, who is that? I don't know. This is one of the Lelands, isn't it?
what? Uh,
Times a face, it says in there.
Haroldine Pace.
Oh, it tells.
Yeah.
Oh, it tells them then. Oh, my goodness, I didn't have to do it.
Number 1 was the Viner boy.
Isn't Jackie cute?
Oh, they're all of us precious.
And that's Jesse, and that's Jimmy Pace.
And Julianne Johnson is
This,
the one with her hair up on the top. Yeah, that's Julianne.
I don't know her.
That's Roy and Alice Johnson's.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh, yes, I remember it. Now, who is this?
Let's see, number 4 is Alexander McQueen Sally.
Oh,
Ellie.
of course. He's the one that was killed, right?
No,
Wasn't Ellie killed in
no,
in an airplane?
no, it was, there's Alec and Bruce and, I forgot the one's name, too, but I talked to Mary just the other day and she was talking about that.
Now, who is that? That's a pretty little thing.
That's the Viner.
That's Sandy Viner. That sure is. That's the little
Alexander
boy that-
Edward Viner.
Yeah, that's her. But I remember that little Hooper girl. Isn't that darn?
Now they
Now,
say
what is this?
this is the possum hunt.
Oh, no.
See the possums?
Oh, yes.
Look at this one.
And look at that one on the stick between those two people there.
And they say that this may be Dr. Gillette,
Galette.
the black cat.
Mm-hmm.
And see these colored boys and white boys, and there was a woman or two in here.
Yeah, you can see there was a woman on the front row there
Well, this one right here, I wonder if that was Dr. Gillette's sister,
beside him.
Julia. That's Dr. Somebody said they thought this was Dr. Gillette with the black cat.
I wish
He's been
that I
dead
put
so
all
long.
this stuff down that Miss Lillian told me. I was young then, and
Now this is bathroom in the room.
I know who that is. That's Mr. Ashley.
At the
This is
first
in the
Coon Dog
first,
Day
yeah.
parade. I think I remember that. When was that parade? What year was
63.
that? Yeah, I was here.
This was John Morse, Jack's father. This is the first Coon Dog parade.
I was here for that
Well, what is
first
that? I
parade.
can't make sense of it.
You know, he had that Saluda Mountaineer
The newspaper.
and he was on the float with his typewriter.
Well, where is he? I don't see him.
Right there, in the middle of the, see him right?
Oh, of
See his
course.
pipe?
Oh, of course. Oh, sure. Oh, yes.
This is Stanley Byers and Thad Johnson. And
Now, was Stanley Byers, was that Kay Byers' brother? Because my kids used to,
Stanley and
Go with-
Thad is George Johnson's. They always had this steer and this wagon in the first
that doesn't look
years.
like a steer. I guess
It looks
is,
like a
though.
cow, doesn't it?
It's, I guess it's, oh yes, in France, they
bull.
they use the milk cows. They pull a wagon with the milk
That's a
cows.
steer.
Yeah, it is a steer, you're right. It looks small, it looks like a real small
Now
cow.
this is Vance Thompson, and he was in several of the first ones with his wagon and mule.
Dog Days. Did you say Dog Days?
You know who that is?
Who is that?
Every dog has his day, and Saturday was Coon Dog Day, and that's Horace Pace and his son-in-law.
Oh my
That's-
goodness, that's a good picture.
That's the first year that Kathy and Dick was married.
How many children do they have?
Two.
Two. She's this precious little girl. Now,
This
that's
is
a
the
pretty...
laundromat. This is Rosalie Johnson with the...
Oh, that's recently, isn't it? When was
Yeah.
that?
No, this was back on the first
That's a
three or
good
four.
picture. That's a good picture.
But I want you to look at these others. Now see,
I
there's
love
hardly
that.
anybody here.
That's right. It hadn't gotten to be a great big, I guess it's good to have everybody come, but it gets to be such a rat race. But that's a darling one with that wagon.
This is the coon.
Yeah, with the coon, I
I
remember.
don't like them to have the coon up there.
No, the coon's scared to
No, I
death.
don't like that.
I hate to see it.
I don't like that at all. That's a good picture. Good, nice colored picture.
This is Roy Morgan. This is his little boy, and his little boy this is Andy, and he's something like 20, 21 years old now. So this must have been
An early one.
very...
You know, I used to
Early.
help with the floats. Well, I didn't help do the float for the women's club, and they wouldn't allow us to use anything except natural greens.
Oh,
You
I
couldn't
think
use
that's all
paper.
you can now.
Yeah, they wouldn't
This
allow you
is
to use it.
Vance Thompson, and I think a Bradley fellow.
What's he doing?
It's on the float, isn't it? At the
Yeah, in a wagon.
on the wagon, yeah. You see the reins in his.
Now, this is an old school picture. This is one of the old Mountain Page school pictures.
Oh, I thought that didn't look like
This
the
is
school
another one.
here.
Ah,
Ed Barber's on this one, and Ed, down at the filling station, Ed Gordon. So, some of
look the way the little boy is sitting. See that little boy with his little
With
legs
his
sticking
legs
out
out.
there?
Looks as,
that's it, really.
that's it.
And it is.
See, wait
Spice.
just a minute now. Oh, my goodness. What that is coming in here? Oh, my goodness, those things are alive. Oh, I know what they are. They come up in this room and we cannot stop it. They
Are
come
they
up every year.
termites?
No, they're not.
Oh, they're those flying ants, yes, and they aren't
and this
termites,
is
yes.
This is concrete. This used to be the garage. And I
Oh.
had it turned into a room. They, you know, it was open here in the double garage.
We had that happen
Yeah, I
in
did.
Washington, and I had the termite people come out, and they said they were not
Well, I
termites.
had
They
the
were.
termite people come out and spray too,
Yeah.
and then after they sprayed, they told me. Well, that's all right, darling. Leave it alone. Gainwell will do it when he comes. He does all the tall things for me. I can't.
I can't
Good.
get that one to go because it's,
Charlene, come here a minute. What is the boy that has an impediment in his speech stays down the street all the time?
Kundo,
No, well, what's his name?
James Lauder,
Yeah. No, not James Lowe, the other one. Hip. Oscar Hip. Oscar Hip. This was in the Saturday Evening Post. He has an impediment in his speech, you know, and he was in the Army, and so he was on guard one night, and an officer came up, you know, and he saluted the officer, and he said, let's see, what is it now? Wait a minute. You're supposed to say, come forward and identify yourself, you know. And so the boy just stood there and didn't say anything. The officer says, aren't you going to say anything? He said, by God, I take remember it. And when I will remember it, I will say it.
Oh, I love that.
Now, isn't that cute?
I
Because
think that's just as cute because he had the impediment, couldn't get it out.
well, he could remember it. And he was supposed to say, come forward and identify yourself. And the officer stood there and he kept saying, that was in the paper.
And said it. Oh,
And then the other thing about him, I don't think you ought to write this.
no,
Charlene
I won't
Leslie.
write it, but I want to keep it just so I can tell my husband.
Have you ever been out on Hanging Rock, Charlene?
no,
Well, that's a gorgeous place that we used to go. You go down, let's see, how do you go? You go
I know
down,
where it's at.
you go down, what road do you go
Go
down?
down Warrior Mountain.
Warrior Mountain. And it's a gorgeous, just rocks, big rocks. And you can look all the way down Packlet Valley and going into Tryon from there. And we used to go out there. Roddy, I can tell you two things about it. Roddy, well, anyway, I'll tell you about him. So somebody came into town one day and said, somebody found a still out there. And they threw it down the mountain. And should have heard the noise of the steel going down the mountain. And he said, by God, you should have heard the noise when I was bringing it back up the hill. Dragging it back. It was his steel.
It was his
He brought it
steel.
all the way.
Brought
Did
that.
you ever hear that, Charlene? And well, they told that. And so this really happened. I'm going to tell you, this really happened. Roddy said to me when he was about, I guess he's 12 or 13 years old. We were here in the summer. And he said, Mother, he ran with a bunch of little Jackie Coates and a little bunch of boys and girls. And he said, Mother, take us out somewhere. So I piled them in the car. And I said, well, we'll go out on Hanging, they called it Hanging Rock. And we went out there, and I was sitting on a big rock. It's perfectly gorgeous. They don't allow you to go out there anymore. But they used to, you could go out there. And I was sitting on the rock, and the little children were playing around, you know, and everything. I think we took something to eat, probably. And they brought a fruit jar. One of the little boys, the little girl said, Mrs. Kirk, look here at this fruit jar. It has something inside it. And I opened it, and it had a note in it from a girl. And she was told about how people were treating her, and that they were talking about her and treating her very badly, and she was going to commit suicide.
Oh, no.
And I thought that it was a joke. I just thought that it was just a
that they
joke,
were kidding.
You know, and so I said, oh, we put this back, you put that fruit jar, half-a-gallon fruit jar, you put it back over there. And so 2 or 3 days later, the police came to see me. Mr. Lauder came to see me, and he said, well, I understand that you found a note out there. And I hadn't told anybody. I thought it was a joke, you know. And some of those children had told it and got back to the police. And they came to see me, and they said, well, didn't you know that that girl was a real girl? And I said, well, no, I didn't know that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, she didn't commit suicide,
Well,
did she?
I reckon she did. I don't remember the name. I hadn't been here long, you know, and I didn't. Well, I thought it was a joke, but that actually happened. I was out there. I read the note myself, but I got a letter through the mail here one time, very similar to that. I got through the mail, and I couldn't understand why they wrote me. Somebody wrote me, you know, that a girl here that she's been mistreated, and oh, it was just horrible, and it scared me nearly to death. I said, my goodness, I wouldn't tell anybody. I didn't know what to do about it, you know. But anyway, that happened. That girl had a note out there. She put a note in that fruit jar. And I said, just put it back and put the, you know, leave it out there because...
You just thought it was somebody.
Well, I thought it was a joke, you know.
Well, I'm going to...
On that out there. You can ask her about it. Somebody bought it, and they have built, I heard that they built a lovely house. Have you ever been out there?
No, but the people that bought it was the Timmermans, and they had it up for sale. You know, they moved in one of those condominiums in town, and White Oak condominiums. They had it up for sale.
Well, what did you ever see the house? I heard it was a beautiful place.
I never have been in it.
They closed it up after they bought it. They wouldn't let anyone go out there. It was a perfectly gorgeous place, you know.
I guess they didn't want too many people.
Oh, they didn't
going
want people
through.
coming. But we used to go out there all the time for picnics, and I used to take the children out there.
Do you spray for these things?
I will, yes, I will have Ganwell spray. I have some crap. We cannot find where they're coming from. See, I had this used to be the garage. When I bought this was open, and this was a double garage here. See, that's why that's over there like that. And then I
Now,
just...
you have a bedroom back here, don't you?
no, it's an office.
Oh, it
my
used to be your
office.
bed. Used to be a bed.
Well, I had a bedroom. I had a bed back there, but I took that bed to New York. I don't have it in I left it in. You know, I just fixed that apartment. Just open it. Look, it's just an office.
I remember you had
Just open those two.
Margaret work for you.
Yeah, just open it.
What is it?
Just bend it this way and it'll go. Bend it.
This way.
This way. No, you don't have to do that now, and I'll do it. Let me show you.
There it is.
That's in the wrong way, see, and it's just, see, and I just made a little office back here. It's awfully messy. It's awfully messy. Okay, 1923, I believe, and she was from Montgomery. I think she, or maybe Augusta. Maybe it was Augusta, Georgia.
And it probably was
I've got that picture of her. I've got that picture. I saved her. I got a picture of her. And she really did an awful lot for Saluda. And she lived up there.
Miss Blair, that's...
Miss Blair, Bessie Blair. Her name was
She
not
was the
Bessie. It was,
second librarian, wasn't she?
well, yeah. But she took the library over when she came here in 1923. And the library was built. It was being built. And Miss Gillette died. And they put her name. It was built in memory of her in a way. You know, F. Gillette Memorial Library. And somebody had that name painted out. I was living in Kentucky. I left here and was living in Kentucky. I would never have allowed it, but anyway, somebody painted it out down there. And so Miss Blair came in 1923, and I have the book here somewhere because I was the librarian down there, and the church, the Episcopal Church, decided to sell it, the library, and they practically gave it to Mr. Henry. They got $1,200 for it. He paid $500 down. The next day he paid $500. Then he paid $500. Well, $1,500, and for it. And we were carrying insurance on it for about $15,000, you know. But anyway, the church wanted to get rid of it because they said we were all getting old, and they put me in charge of selling the books. And now, what was I going to tell you?
About Miss Blair.
Yeah. Well, Miss Blair was the librarian all those years, and I have the book, and I didn't know what to do with it. I brought it home. I think it's right over there. Open up that drawer right there and see if it isn't in that drawer.
What is it?
Well, I was going to. It's the people that came to Saluda, and you can name some of the people that lived. No, that's
this
not
it?
it. No, darling, that's not it. It's a little. Let's see if it's right there. I put it here because I didn't know what to do with it, and I thought that I would get it. Oh, I don't see it. No, it's a little narrow book. Oh my. Let's see. That is not anything. That's a
picture book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, there's nothing in this little level. Look how it's eaten up. I'm a junk saver. But anyway, I've got the books, and it has all of a list of the people that came to Saluda from the time 1923 up and went to the library.
Oh, that would be wonderful
Yes.
if you could
Well, I've
find
got-
that.
yeah,
It would be
it's
nice
here.
to have.
It's here. If it's not in there, it's, I'll have to find it. It's probably over there. I try to keep everything back here. But anyway, I used to keep it in there. And I didn't, the other day I think about that, and I thought, well, I've got to do something about this book. And
Can't see.
you know what I thought I would do was just to leave it up to the church and let them, I didn't know what to do with it. Who should I give it to?
Give it to us.
Do you
I
know,
would be
yes,
delighted
because
to.
we're trying to
Well,
keep
good.
everything like
Well,
that
good.
that we
Megan
can.
has given us the Melrose Inn brochure.
Well,
That's the one I was showing you, that old
Well,
one that
no,
Cater
it's
let
in the
me
museum.
have.
Uh-huh.
I think we ought to have a museum.
gonna
Sooner
have
or
a
later, we'll have
Well,
some sort of
well,
a museum.
I didn't know what to do with that.
Well,
Like I say.
anything else you can
And
find to
also-
do with it.
Also, I found down there in the library a lot of poems that Mr. Heverly had written.
I want to read them now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's, I've got
Now,
them.
he's got some in his Saluda magazine. One of them is Cheerio.
Well, he wrote poetry all the time. And it was in the library, and when they closed it up, and I brought those things up. Most of the things got, I left here and went to Kentucky and lived about 6 years.
I remember.
And Mrs. Tabor took over the library, and she had a man in there to put a petition in the library, and they threw every one of the books down on the floor, and all the stuff that the Women's Club, all the things about the Women's Club and the Tryon Bulletins, when it was the smallest newspaper in the world, you know, little paper like that, daily newspaper in the world. And she had Mr. I always called him Cutie. What's Cubit?
Hubert
What's it?
Bradley.
Hubert Bradley. She had him to come with his truck and hauled all that stuff out of the library and burned it. Burned everything that belonged to the When I came back here, Jenny Coates said, everything we put down in the library, wanted to say about the Women's Club and all about Saluda, she burned it all. But she didn't get this book, this one book that I found. And I've got it here, and I certainly didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to give it to somebody because
Well, Cater has most of it, but he keeps in the safe, and I've got it. I told him I wouldn't let anybody have it, you know, and I'd be real careful with it. And I've got, and the things that Charlene has given me that she's Xeroxed and all, I've got them together here so that I can go over and use them when I need them as a reference for
Did
this
you have the
thing.
book that showed the first mayor and showed the two houses over here, just the two houses? And you can see Friendship Church in it. Have you got that?
Well, that's at 1898.
I
Is that
think
what
that
it
may
is?
be in here. I'm not the book itself, but I think I've got the Xerox. You Xeroxed it, didn't you?
Is that the
I've
one,
got
No,
Kathleen?
Taylor did the Xerox.
Well, I've got it.
That's the one that Fred Robinson had.
Yeah, Fred.
Kathleen, when she loaned it with a stipulation. See, we had the glass case, and we put it under glass, but we had the Xerox copy that anybody could look through and read, and she did not want it handled.
Mhm.
And I don't blame her.
No,
Well,
not at all.
Fred brought that up to me. He lived right down here, and one day I worked in the yard all the time. And I was out there in the yard, and he came up in the yard, came walking the yard, and he said, Mrs. Kirk, look what I found in the attic. And some man years and years ago had lived in that house and left a lot of stuff about Saluda in the attic.
It had, I tell you, that book had on it, you was telling me about that, and it had a Mrs. Moore's name on it.
That's what I thought, the Moores lived there. That's what I heard. That's what I thought. Well, anyway,
because-
he let me have the book, and I was just fascinated with it. But I thought, well, I'd like to have
Well,
this
now,
copy.
a lot of these pictures, Kathleen she let Jody Barber, she carried that book and let him keep it 2 hours, and he made the film. Put it on these slides, and she come back and got it. She wouldn't let nobody,
Well,
and she was so afraid somebody would Xerox it, she didn't know what to do.
well, now I've got a picture right in there, but you've got that in the Saluda, haven't you? The little long,
Jack
thing.
got.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that, haven't you?
I guess.
Well, I've got
I
that.
don't know exactly what happened.
Well, you know the postcards. and
Oh,
the-
yes, the
Jack Moore
postcard,
said.
yes.
Let me see right here. Let's see if I
The
can.
one that Jack Moore said.
And she had these 5 children. 5, wasn't it, or 4? Let's see, she had Betty, Ronald, Bobby, and Tommy.
I didn't know. any
4.
of them.
4.
Betty
She-
was right.
Yeah, well, she just had 1 girl and 3 boys.
boys.
And she left her husband. I don't know why. She just left him, I don't know. And some wealthy woman over there, I used to know who it was, I can't remember now, got interested in her, and she was trying to make hook rugs, and she would take wool and cut little strips and make little rugs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman said, "Why
Did she
don't?"
make this one?
Yes, she did. That's one of her oldest ones. Yes, this is one of the old one. And the woman sent her to New York, and you ought to hear Lillian. You all just, I can tell you the funniest things you've ever heard in your life. She went up there, and she didn't have any money, and you ought to hear her talk about how she walked all over New York trying to find rags, buy woolen rags, you know, to make rugs and everything. And I don't know how they live, but they just live. I don't know,
She take her kids up there with her?
yeah, and I don't think they ever went to school. I don't think they went to school very much, you know. That was
But
my...
that artistry is just something that they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
you know,
very artistic. I mean.
How the artist-
She is excellent.
Now,
It's
who
not-
was it that did the pastel portraits? Was that Lillian?
No, that's Betty Ann.
That's
Betty
Betty
Ann.
Ann. That's Betty Ann. Betty Ann did that.
Mills
And-
Dobbin.
Yeah. And she is a good painter. I've seen some beautiful stuff that she did, but then she does very sorry work too, I think. And there's something in her makeup that keeps her from being making a living being an artist. I can feel it. I can't explain it. There's something
She
in
just
her.
doesn't let go or something.
Well, there's something about it. She doesn't. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it.
She can capture, now, the portraits I say, she can capture a likeness. But she doesn't get that deep.
Life. She doesn't get the thing.
They're so stiff.
Yeah, and nothing comes out. You know, no personality or
You
anything.
can tell who it is,
Mhm.
but that's, I mean.
Well, the only time I ever really ran into the crowd of them was when they were staying up there, and we had come up for the summer. I came out of the house one day and was pushing the children along in the stroller, and she had the painters doing the house. And I don't know, I wish I knew now who it was that was painting that house, because I probably know him. But at that time, I didn't know at all. And there were about 2 or 3 men, mountain men, standing around, and she was trying to tell
I
them.
bet it's Ed Johnson and Willis and, who else?
Well, it could have been Harley Jones or whoever, I don't know, anyhow. They were standing around, and she was saying, one of them was saying, now we want just a tiny touch of green in that white. It wants to be a white house, but just with a tiny touch of green, and it must blend with the shutters. And somebody else was saying, no, now that green, that would be too much to have green in the white and the green shutters. Now you want, and these men were standing around there just shaking their heads at this.
Just like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about her. I can tell all kind of tales on people, you know, if you get me started. I came in the summer, I owned that house, excuse my pointing, but
Yeah.
up there, you know, the White House, just
right.
that's where I lived, you know. And she used to stay with me because they didn't have anything to eat. You knew they were very poor, didn't you? I've been in
didn't know
there,
that
they
much
didn't
about
even, they didn't have any sheets or any towels or anything in the house, you know. I mean, they were real poor, and I like Leah. She's very entertaining. I still like Leah. And so she was staying up there with me, and now let me see I know what it was. She came up one day, and her face was real red. Ooh, it was real red. And she said, boy, I've had a time. And I said, well, what's the matter with you, Lydia? She said, a man from the state bureau of, a tax man, you know, the tax, from the bureau, what they call it, from the taxes, you know. Internal Revenue, came to see me, and she said, he told me that I've been working all these people down in the rug factory, you know, making rugs, and she hadn't paid any Social Security on them. And the man came up here, and he said, you've got to pay, and he told her how much, well, say $100. I mean, you know, for the story, I don't know how much it was. and you'll have to pay it. And she said, well, I haven't got it. And he said, well, he kept on talking to her, and she just said, well, I can't pay you because I don't have any money. And he said, well, I'll just have to take you to jail. And she said, well, that's fine. You just take me to jail and be sure to give me a northern light so I can paint. And she talked so crazy, the man got up and left.
No, I'll have to remember that.
He got up and left. And another thing, now Ronald told me this. Lillian and Ronald started in Atlanta one time. And Lillian, let's see now, how was it? Yeah, Lillian was driving. And speeding down the road just like everything, you know. And a patrolman stopped her and asked her for a driver's license. And she said, driver's license? What are you talking about, man? I know what you're talking about. And she said, well, you're supposed to have a driver's license. She said, boy, let me tell you something. Before you were ever born, I drove a car, and I don't know anything about driver's license. And he said, lady, I think you better let your husband drive. And it was Ronald. Ronald was Tennessee, and he told me that, and you know, they just die laughing about those things. And one time, when she started making rugs in New York, something like this, she wanted to have you'll have to help me because my mind goes blank on me. What do you call it? A patent?
Oh, yes, a copyright.
A copyright. And she got in.
Oh, no.
They couldn't stop her, and she took that little Model T Ford, you know. They never had money to buy the gas, you know. Well, anyway, she didn't see Mrs. Roselle, but she saw her secretary. Yeah, she saw her. And then
Well, what did they do about it?
Nothing. I think she got a letter from them later saying that they appreciated it. She was trying to get a patent for her designs, you know.
Well, didn't she do some rugs for the White House?
No, she did
Little
for
White
the,
House.
and also the, there's one in the Smithsonian.
Oh, there's 2 or 3 roads
Yeah,
there.
at least I knew there was one. I had seen that.
I've seen, yeah,
in the President's Wives.
I saw
part
them
of the
do that. Yeah, I
Smithsonian.
saw them do the road for that. But there was another. Oh, she had a big old second-hand Cadillac. Great, you remember that? Great big old Cadillac. Old second-hand car. And she would be down
How in
the
the world
street.
did she get the money for that? Oh, they've sold the rugs now. I mean, they're making money.
Well, it was either feast or famine with them.
Mhm.
If they made money, you'd go up there and they'd have lovely rugs on the floor, and they'd have food, and they'd have, I just loved what them parties. I liked them. I think I got the biggest kick out of them in the world. You know, I just loved to be around them. And then they'd get out of money, and you'd go up there, and all the rugs would be gone, the furniture would be gone. You know, they'd sell it.
And they lived out here.
Yeah, they lived in that Henson house.
The
That
one
was-
that's right up
Henson.
by
Yeah.
that funny old thing that's
Yeah.
falling down
Well,
now.
But what I know it is the rag house.
It was the Rags and the Ropers that lived there. Hank
that-
knew that. They were
Well-
WRAGGE. And there was Mrs.
Well, I thought that
There was
was-
somebody named Rag, and then somebody in that family married a Roper, or there was a Miss
Henson
Roper and a
built
Mr. Rag,
But I
or
thought
whatever.
Henson lived there.
Henson built.
Henson built
yeah,
it. That's
I,
right.
I've always heard it called Henson. But anyway, she would be downtown. You can't believe this, but it's the truth. She would be downtown, and all of a sudden she decided she was going to New York. And they had an apartment apparently in,
Greenwich Village.
No, in building where they have art. Mercy. I get so mad at myself.
I do the same thing,
It's my, yeah.
Gertrude.
Well, doctor said it's my brain doesn't get the supply, something, blood supply. But anyway, they had an apartment up there, and she'd be down the street, and she'd say all of a sudden she's going to New York. And she got in that old station wagon, that old big old Cadillac, and started off, and wouldn't even take a gown, a change of clothes, a hairbrush, no, absolutely nothing. And she loaded up some rugs and some paintings. And she got up on the New Jersey highway, you know.
Turnpike.
And the thing went chug chug, and it died on her. And so they had to, she didn't have any money at all. Didn't have any money at all. She never did have. And so they had to pull it out. They got somebody to pull it, and they pulled it into a filling station or something somewhere. And she left it with all the rugs and things in it because she couldn't, she couldn't pay for it, And so she came back and told me about it, and I reckon they went back up and got the paintings. I don't know whatever happened. But she would go to New York. I'd see her 5 minutes after I'd see her down there, and she said, I'm going to New York.
Now listen, I remember when I came to Saluda, they was making rugs in the OAG store. That's for Bill over there.
Yeah.
And then I remember they made them down here in the old Hart building.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And did they make them down in the old Hannah Pace building?
They made them down there someplace, I know.
And then they had people working in their homes.
Mm-hmm. I know they did.
Now see, I came in about 1945, but I remember that they used to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew some of them down
And then she left New York, you see, and came back to Saluda and opened up rug. She called it the Heritage Gill. Heritage. I think it's on the back of this. Heritage Gill, I think is what she called her rugs. And but she just amused you to death, you know. I just loved to hear her talking, but she'll get you. She'll certainly get you.
Is that the only places they made rugs? In these two old store buildings?
Didn't they make it up in the old bank building? Weren't they in that old bank building?
The bank building?
You know, that was right there between M.A. Pace's and...
The only thing I remember about the old bank building is when the Johnson family lived there. You know, they had a shoe place there.
I don't remember that.
Reynolds had a shoe place there.
I remember that.
And then when they tore it down, Edward Johnson, you know, Plumber Ed, his son lived there. And they moved from there down to John Rhodes' log cabin on Houston Falls Road.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me like they in some big building right down here. I used to go down there and sit down there.
Well, it wasn't the old ribbon factory.
It was
Where they-
not on Main Street there. And
Well-
they charged. They would just they had a big crew working down there, you know, and had a manager.
Did they
You remember
pay
the man?
pay well?
You remember that manager came down here from Washington? He was I can't remember his name either. And then they bought the Henson house. I always heard it called, what you call the rag house. They bought that. Their son bought it. One of their sons that was injured during the war, and he got a $25,000 or $30,000 something, and he bought that house. And
They still own that.
and they won't pay the taxes on it. They won't fix it up.
I know the city was supposed to. They told the city to burn it down, to get the fire department to burn it down,
Well, what they
because
ought to
it's
do-
not safe. It really
What
isn't.
you ought to do, what somebody ought to do is take the main sleepers out of it, because that's a virgin timber. You can't buy sleepers like that. That's an old house.
Yeah.
But there was one other funny thing. Oh, I know what it was. She wanted to go to New York one time, and I guess that was when she lost the car, you know, on the New Jersey Pike. And she went down to the depot and gave Dee Hall a check, you know, for
the ticket
to New York, and it wasn't any good, and it just tickled me to death. He said, that woman gave me a check, and I just almost died laughing. I knew she would do that. She didn't have money to get out of here, so she wrote him a check and didn't have a penny in the bank, not a penny. And and she got to New York. That's all she wanted. And she had tickets from all over New York, and she'd go up there in the car. She never paid it. She'd park it where she wanted to, and never paid any of the tickets. You just can't believe what she's done. But she's entertaining. Something, yeah. Something that I think would help you. I didn't think about this the other day when I was talking to you. Ed Leland's sister used to put out Saluda magazine.
Yes, I have those.
Do you have
I have
all of
all but one of them. I lent it to Boo just before that because she hadn't even seen them.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was going to talk, you know, in February when we had
I
that
did it
thing.
back away from her.
Well, I asked her for it today and she couldn't find it, so I think
that's
she's lost it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what's happened to me.
Yeah.
That
I'll
has
probably,
happened.
I'll be able to get another one. No, I've got all but one of them.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well,
I thought I'd bring them along just in case.
Charlene had these made, you know.
Yeah. Or
and
maybe she
it
can
tells
get
an awful lot about the hotels and about the children, and it has about, very interesting things. And I've got a magazine in there that Nettie
Have you
Owens
seen that?
Smith. No.
Be real careful because it's an old one. It's one that belongs to Cater that somebody either gave him or lent him.
Melrose Inn,
Melrose Inn was,
over here.
or was that Charles Hotel?
No, Charles Hotel was here.
Was here. That
Uh-huh.
was it. Melrose Inn
Melrose.
was over there,
Oh, I
yes.
see.
And this has the, this is 1907 or 8, I think.
Well, I tell you, the hotel was there when I came here, but it they closed it.
Mm-hmm.
And something real dirty happened about it. And of course, don't you put this in there?
No,
but-
I'm going to erase this. I've got,
I mean, don't.
yeah,
you
right,
know,
I wouldn't mention
You
it.
don't have, do you have that on?
Yeah, I have it on, but
Well-
I won't say who it is that's talking. I won't keep it. I'll just,
Well-
I want it to remind me of things as I go along. This is,
Well, I probably can't talk to you too much about it today. I'm not in the mood somehow.
Oh,
I got
I'm
up this
sorry.
morning, I said, it's real strange. I'm having a lawsuit myself.
oh,
And I'm in some trouble, and well, not real trouble. And my mind has been on that for the last several days. And then I've been interested in that Clara case. You knew that he up in Hinsville.
I wondered about
Did you
that.
know about that?
I have no idea of anything
Well,
about it.
Cut that off.
Okay, sure.
I'll tell you. Here one summer, and then we went down to I moved to Charleston, and it burned. Somebody burned it one night, and it was a big, long building like this.
1931.
In 31. Well, that's just about the time I left here to go to, let's see, 31, 33. Yes, because I didn't have but one baby then. Rodney was not born. That's right. And it was burned while I was down there. When I came
Leland's
back,
got a big picture of it, and on the back it's got that it burned. It told April, I think, in 1931.
well, I remember when and you know what they said? They said that, now what is that? Eastern View.
That's
that's the back of it, isn't it?
Or one of the sides. I
One of the
think.
sides. Now, this is different, isn't it?
That's the same one.
Is that the same one? No, that's
And
not.
it's the same building, but from a different view, I
No,
think.
this is the cottage.
Oh, that's the cottage.
this is the
Excuse me,
cottage.
I can't see.
Yeah,
Because
this
you've got my glasses.
Sharing glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can go get mine. This is the cottage. Now, the Lillian's relatives lived back up in up there in the cottage, and Ed Leland, let me see, how was that? What?
J.A. Neighbors?
J.A. Neighbors he bought that Melrose property. Yeah, I think he did. Somehow.
Yeah, because he's the one that sold the J.C. Kirks.
Yeah, he's the one. Well, anyway, there was a cottage up there, and they just let it fall in. That was the cottage, and that's where the Harriets lived there. And I remember that. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Oh, I can see these better than mine. see if you can use those.
Yeah, sure.
Huh?
Sure.
Well,
I can you keep those.
That was what places I like you to go.
Well, just temporarily. I will swap. I don't like these because I have a tendency to be cross-eyed, and when I look down, I have to look straight ahead at things, because if I look down, then my eyes cross. Ophthalmologist told me that once. I said, I go
You don't
crazy.
have bifocals in
These are,
yours.
no, mine are just reading glasses. But I don't know what, we just thought we'd come over here because you seem to know more about, I remember you told Hank and me a lot about Saluda and
Well,
all that.
Charlene, I said this morning to Ruth, I said, I don't know whether I can talk about Saluda today or not, because I've been real upset. I'm having a lawsuit. The people who did my house, here, they're suing me, and Roddy, and I've never been so surprised in my life. And I went to the door about 8:30 and 9 o'clock one night, and somebody was ringing the doorbell, and I turned the light. I was in bed, and I got up and put my house coat on and went to the door, and there stood a deputy sheriff in his uniform, and he said, "Mrs. Kirk?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Here's a paper for you." And it was a summer. It was
Good night,
yeah. And it's complicated, but the people who did these sat on his porch and talked to me. He told me all about the Indians coming up through there, and they came, and
what was the path?
what's the name of the
Howard's Gap Room?
Howard Gap, yeah. And he said that the way the Indians, they built the road according to the Indians because they had the right elevation. They would get places, in the right way. And they had some battles up there on Green River Cove and up on the mountain. And
Well, that's where Skyuka, didn't he lead Howard up there to capture those Cherokees oh, look, this is, you've seen our helper engine, haven't you? That
yeah, I've seen
the ones that we've been doing down there for the,
oh, that's good. Old Tammy Saluda.
now who did that, Charlene? Not that it matters.
I think Sylvia Jones. You know her? She's got that place out on next to the watershed.
You mean-
Wildwood or something?
You mean out on Greenville Road?
Yeah, she's right next to the watershed. So, well,
Now, this is your cover for the slides, huh?
yeah,
That's good.
This is my.
Are you coming over here?
Ground home. But
Does it run automatically? Oh,
I got the controls
That's what
right
I
here.
Come on around here and sit. can't you?
No, I'm sitting right here. It's fine. This control's done long for the plug-in's not too long, but the control is.
I never can make them work right.
So you see one over time is Saluda.
Now was that the Melrose Station that size?
That was the telegraph office down there.
what does that say up there?
Melrose.
See, there's somebody walking out. I think this was Frank Bishop. See right there?
You
But,
mean that was down in Melrose?
Yeah. See, this is looking up the mountain, and there comes the steam engine. You see the trestle.
And that was made down in Melrose.
That's funny.
I could tell you something funny about that.
What's that?
I don't know whether you ought to put in,
I'm not going to put any of this down if
Well-
you say not to.
I don't know whether you should do it or not, but I don't think the man would care. One of the Heatherly boys, when I came here, there were, 5 or 6 or 7 of those Heatherly boys. Real good-looking boys, straight as they said they were part of Indian. And one of them worked down at that station down in Melrose.
Melrose,
They kept someone down there because the trains would run away. That's the steepest grade east of the Rockies, And, well, I guess it'd be west of the Rockies, but they always say east.
East. It's east of the Rockies.
Yeah, it would be east. Yeah, it would be east. Well,
It's the steepest grade in the United States. They
Yeah,
used
well-
to say east of the Rockies.
yeah. And, well, anyway, they kept a man down there if the train was going to run away, they wouldn't blow. Isn't that the way, Charlene? They wouldn't blow.
Well, over at number 1, they had a certain signal. See, JB used to work over there, and they had this signal. It was a short, a long, and a short. And that meant everything's in control when they give that signal.
Yeah.
And then when the switchman heard the signal, he threw the switch from to go on down the mountain, and they give 2 shorts. Okay, we see the go signal. But if they didn't give that signal, and they didn't give that 2, we see it. Then
But
he
I
switched
remember
it
that
back.
when we
They
first
let it
used to
ride-
come up here.
They let it go up on sidetrack 1, and one went over the mountain. I went down there and saw it. One went over the mountain,
I got a picture of it.
and the engine and all the cars went right down the mountain and killed a lot of cattle. But the funny thing about that,
Well, is that the track that going up the hill? That's a safety
That's it.
track.
Safety
That's
track
just-
number 2.
that's the safety track. And if they didn't blow, then they knew that the train was running away. So
This
they
is one at Melrose. See Melrose?
You can see the sign Melrose over there.
I got one of number 1 too.
So this Heatherly boy, y'all would have to know him. I thought it was the funniest thing. He evidently was drinking, and the train came by, and he handed the conductor, something they put on a stick, a little note, and the conductor couldn't read it, and so they got Big Heatherly. They called him Big Heatherly. They questioned him, and he said, "Well, I can't help it if the conductor can't read. He was drunk, and the conductor couldn't read the
Right.
the writing.
writing.
He said, "Why? I can't help it if the conductor can't read." Did that happen? Now, where is that?
This is down at Melrose, or Rock Cut, below Melrose.
What are those, big
This
logs?
is Walnut Farms, and I think it's the next one that shows how.
Oh, these were the chain gang, weren't they, that were working
Now,
down,
let me see if that,
prisoners or whatever?
I'm supposed to have another slide. I took some of them out. And I
My,
put-
those are big trees, aren't they?
And walnut, don't you know those things are worth a fortune? But maybe we'll run up on this other slide. See the two planks right here?
Mm-hmm.
They took oxen and rolled them up on the box cars. And I
Pulled
got a
them.
picture of the oxen, pulling them up with cables.
Mm.
Now, the Pearson family did this. But see how clean and underbrushed it is up here?
Oh, yes, they
Looks
really
like
cleaned
buildings
it
up there. See?
I was wondering if that was down at Tron, before Tron, it really was a town.
Two men there, or one man.
Or could it be Saluda?
No, I don't think so.
You know, it looks very much like the walnuts, which I like on there. Just as you get to the first crossing, and then the tracking through is a big
Before-
mountain road.
Yeah, before you get over by the country club.
Yeah, just about there.
That's virgin
You know, they
timber,
call it
isn't it?
Tom's.
Virgin logs.
Must be.
Because the post office was out here at Saluda. Yeah, Tron Post
I
Office.
didn't think it
Now this.
That's a convict labor.
I wonder if anybody would recognize themselves in
And
there.
they also, well, see, this has been over 100 years ago, and they also worked on Black Mountain Railroad over there. But this is,
A man
they
named,
was used first on Saluda Mountain, then when they finished Saluda Mountain, they went to Black Mountain.
Weren't there several of them that died, or a bunch of
Oh,
them that
there's
died
a
working
bunch.
on it? It was such hard work.
now there's the, that must be one of the safety tracks, isn't it?
No, this is about halfway up the mountain, where you can see, there's another one somewhere that you can see the railroad in 10 places, and you can see the train coming up. But this one, it looks like, well, let's see, right there, you might can see right in there, a little smoke.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other one, you can see the train. You know him? Jim Headley?
Oh, he's the one
Oh.
you were talking about,
Oh,
wasn't he?
you know what he did?
No.
He wrote the most beautiful poetry. I ran into a book. I used to work in the library down here, and he wrote poetry. He's the one that had all those boys, you know. They were really something.
He was the telegraph operator at the depot, wasn't he? Of
Uh-huh.
course, he worked at Melrose, but see, he'd been working 35 years, but I don't know when this was. Bertha Bishop and Mom McAllister, their mother was his sister.
Oh,
So they had this picture. And look at the old telephone. And behind him, you know, you can see the speaker. And
mm-hmm.
directly behind him is a telegraph key.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say down there?
Okay.
I could. What does it say?
Introducing James W. Hadley, manager of the Western Union Telegraph Office, railroad telegraph operator, Saluda NC, Division of Southern Railway, Division 59 Southern Railway, in harness 35 years and still going strong.
He'd worked 35 years.
Whereabouts did he live? All over different places? in
They
town?
they rented.
Now,
Yeah.
he built the house over there where Mr. Miller lived. You know where Colonel Brady's is? He built that house.
He did.
And old man Bud Pace bought his log cabin from him.
Well, he, when I came here, there was a building right next to the library down here. It was, at one time, it had been used as a rectory for the Episcopal Church because the church owned the library. And they lived in that house for a while. And I don't know where else they lived, but they just moved around. He had 4, 5, or 6 boys, and they were really something. I mean, they were all, you remember them, don't you? They were always
I
in,
remember them.
oh my, they were in something all the time, just like
They lived
like
over,
Beak, you know. He was just so drunk down there, and the man,
bet you-
and he said, well, I can't help it if the man can't read, the conductor can't read on, you know, my writing.
His mother and Daddy lived in the old log cabin, you know.
Oh, the one that was on the school grounds?
You mean Mr. Heather, his father and mother? Well, that log cabin was there when I came here.
Okay, here's your records talking about on September 25th, 1940. This runaway reached a speed of
Is that
45
the-
miles, and it's supposed to go down that mountain 20 miles.
Mhm.
And safety track number 1 prevented the total disaster, but the open end of the safety track, and the train was going so fast it went all the way
Went
over.
clear over. Oh, goodness.
And the engineer jumped. Now, Mr. Savage told me about this, and the engineer jumped off. And he told the fireman to jump, but the fireman didn't jump, and when it wrecked, all that coal shifted in and pinned the fireman in and killed him. He was just buried under the coal.
We've got the story of that you, in that little booklet that you gave me.
In that time in Saluda.
No, yeah, I guess it was. It was from the Trains magazine, I think, an old
Yeah.
Trains
Well,
magazine.
Well,
I think
I
that's
I went down there and saw it, and what happened,
It was a load of cattle.
I had, the cows were
Oh,
starting
that's
to-
slaughterhouse. That's
Yeah.
slaughterhouse turn, then it isn't.
Yeah.
No?
No, that's the
Another
other
s-
railroads.
Oh, that's another one then.
They called that because some of the runaway trains killed the prisoners that was working slaughter pen cut.
Oh, I see.
Well, I went down there and saw the train, and it went up the track like that, and it was going so fast that it dived down the mountain, and I went down there and it was staying,
Oh, yeah.
the big engine was, and it was still smoking. Smoke was
Yeah.
Was it
coming
this
out.
engine?
That you can
Huh?
see.
This is the
Well,
engine.
maybe they were pulling it out, but it was
Yeah, they were
huge.
pulling it out there with a
Yeah,
crane. You can
and,
There's a
see.
crane on it.
And it was still smoking, and some of the boxcars went over with it, and they had cattle, and when the train went up to the top, it made a big hole when it went down, and the cattle fell all into the hole, but
Oh.
one cow, and she was out,
Mr. Savage got hurt.
and they went up and looked in that hole, and they were all down in there. I didn't look at it. I didn't
no.
look at it. And they buried all the coal. I didn't know anybody was killed then. They buried that coal, you know. They buried it in the ground. They wouldn't let anybody pick it up. And I remember that. Now, the train looked just about like that, the big engine that went down. It was still smoking when I got down there.
This is the helper.
Is that the helper?
See City Hall.
Oh, yes.
This is red. One of these is Red McAllister. I think the one with this one right here, his hands up on the engine. That's Mom McAllister's husband.
Mr. Patterson wasn't one of them. He was on the upper when I came here.
I don't know.
He was a conductor on the.
You might could tell whether it was or not. I did get a letter from Mama the other day with some pictures of her daddy that we gonna be able to use to borrow. We have to send them back.
He was a kind of a big fat man. He had a.
Oh, I wrote and told her, she asked me if we was going to.
That's 4 men, isn't it? 4 men. Do you
It
see?
looks like, yes, there are 4 of them. There are 4 of them.
No, if we was going to do anything special about the railroad men, and I told her, please send me some information. So she had Sarah type it up, or she'd send it, she wrote it out and had Sarah type it.
When I came here, he was a big fat man. Had
Well,
big
see,
round face.
this right here is a big fat man, and this
This one,
right here,
that one.
yeah. And then this, I think Maud said this is her husband. Was he an engineer?
Yeah, he was a
McAllister?
conductor. No, he was a conductor. No, I don't know about McAllister, but Mr. Patterson was a conductor.
I believe Red McAllister was the engineer. And then, Mr. Patterson.
Was the conductor.
And some of them said Charlie Ward's, one of these may be Roy Ward's father. I don't know, you should have seen Lola. I had to literally beg Lola, and I told Charlie, I said, make her come up to the church while you was gone and see these. And she didn't want to go, and Charlie said, if you don't go, I'm locking the doors. And so she came up there and said, the best time you ever saw. And Charlie said to me, he said, you know, I'm so happy she come to see them. I said, that's all she's talking about. This is another one of the,
Is that the helper?
yeah.
Well,
It's,
it was
it's
just a
from
big-
the front so that it looks much shorter than the others.
This is a real old one. Though.
An old helper, yeah. I think that was
Well,
that.
the helper was not anything but a big engine that pushed the train up the mountain, you know.
And this is just under where the bridge is. See the 2 banks? You can see the 2 banks.
Mm-hmm.
This is an old picture. See how it's cracked?
Yeah.
This belonged to Maud. So I guess Mr. McAllister's on one of them. Now, they can tell you this and this and this and this and this, but I can't, because they knew them. Now, this is just coming up right behind Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Right behind where?
Where Ruth Anderson's little shop is now.
Ruth Anderson, who is she?
She has the whistle stop. She has the little whistle
That's the
stop.
post office. Now, this went around to Dr. Moore's house, and he was a dentist from Columbia that came, and it tells in that little book.
He was a bishop.
Was
He was a bishop in the Episcopal Church. Bishop
he
Martin.
he also was a dentist.
He was? I didn't know that. But that house, you know, up that JC has that junk place,
house.
the house up there. That's where he lived. The Moores lived up there.
This is another. Now, this is Mr. McAllister right here.
Well, now that looks, Mr. Patterson was big and fat. And he stayed in Saluda. What he did, he took the engine down to pull the trains up, you know. He worked on, he was conductor of the
Now that's the same. That's the
right,
same
back
class
up
as
to
4050. I don't know whether it is 4050, but it's the same class. Looks very much like.
Look, I got it in backwards. See that stops backwards?
Mm-hmm.
I took some of these out and had those prints made. So, see, this is Lola's store. See that? That's from Lola's store right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right up there at the top. Oh, here's that one where you can see the railroad at 10 points. And right back here, you can see the engine.
Oh yes, then you can see the
Smoke.
train. Uh-huh.
See it?
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
See that black?
Yeah.
And see the smoke. And see the smoke over the top of it. But Ruth Staten and Calvin Hill made postcards. And this was one of the postcards.
I've got some postcards of Saluda, and I can't recognize any of the places. It says Saluda, North Carolina, but I can't recognize any of the places.
It didn't tell?
No, it just said Saluda, North Carolina, view of Saluda.
Do you
Well,
suppose
a
we
lot
could
of them don't
reproduce
have-
those maybe
Well,
for the history if you
I'll
could
be-
get them out?
Yes, I'll be glad to give them to you.
Oh,
Oh
wonderful.
my, I wonder what I did with them. But anyway, I've got them.
Oh, I like that. I love the car there. The cars.
What is that?
That's going down to
Model
me.
A? Was that a Model A?
Oh, well, it's
Model
kind
T?
of hard to tell.
No, Model T.
Well, it could have been almost anything
Now that's
because
the depot.
They went down to meet the train, I think.
But these two look like T-models, don't they?
Look like what?
T-model.
See these over here next
Is
to the station?
is that the railroad? I mean, the
That's the depot.
station, the
That's
depot?
it. And was that wasn't where it is now, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
This is Kathleen Stevenson.
Oh, I see. From back over.
She said that her daddy gave her a panoramic camera when she was 10 years old, and she made some of these herself.
You know,
This was about
he developed
1910.
pictures. Did you know that? That
Yeah,
was
he
his,
taught.
because I used to, when I first came here, I'd take the films down. He would develop them for me, her father.
Oh, that's close up there.
Look at the little horse in the
That
car.
was one of the gray wagons from one of the stores. That was Mr. Saunders. O'Neill. Of course, they always met the trains.
Well, now, Eunice was telling me today that the store was Saunders' store before it was either Pace or Thompson. Sonner, that's right. Saunders store.
Of course, this is out of the Saluda magazine, but this
Mhm.
is taken from the highway. It's a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Good Robert does.
And that's the Mineral Springs. Now,
That's
where
Depot Spring.
says Healthful Mineral Spring, located on the property of Mr. E.H. Gaines. Now, where is that?
It's down at the depot.
Across from that little work house.
Down at the depot, like you're going to the depot, and you
Oh, I
cross the
see.
railroad tracks, and it's sort of under the road. And he had, Mr. Gaines, I knew him quite well. His daughter was one of my very best friends, Alice. And he found that well, spring under there, and people used to go and drink the water. He had it tested one time. But then later, when they put the filling station up there, they had the sewage to run.
Oh, that's bad.
And then you know, had the sewage to run down there, and so they
Had to close it out.
But people used to go down there and get buckets of water, you know, to drink.
Oh, that's like City Hall behind, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is Mr. McAllister right here.
Now, what are those houses up behind?
One of them's Pepperdash building up there where George's got his shop. Look at the cornfield over here,
Yes, I see that.
where the gas station is.
Well, now that looks like a house up there
No,
behind.
that's top that Pepperdash building. Now this is the first depot. And this one is in.
No, that's not the first one, darling. No, that's not the first one. The first one didn't look like that, and the first one was over. I had the picture, a real good picture of it. Fairchild Sonner gave it to me. You know, Sonners had it.
Yeah.
And it was across the railroad, almost in front of
Oh, now
Jack
this is-
Ward's
this is one
Cafe.
that Southern
It's
Railway
across.
said was the first depot.
But it isn't. That's not the real first one, because it doesn't, or at least it doesn't look like the one I have. I had, and it was across between the railroad and the tennis courts. You know where the tennis courts are? Well, it was right in there. It was right in there.
Read it backwards.
It was just
That's more like it.
now that looks like the present depot, doesn't it? That
No,
looks.
it's not.
It's not, is it?
That's the old one that was across the street from town. See, that hill behind it, that's where the bandstand was too, you know. I got some pictures later. But this is one that Southern Railway said was the first depot. Oh,
Well,
I
it
don't
wasn't.
know.
It wasn't like it wasn't the one. It's a little bit too elaborate from the one I had.
Now this is an ice, but it is Carolina Special, and it had to come through Saluda before it got to ice. This railroad man that came to see me from Asheville was gonna bring me some pictures, and he said that this was taken in the yard, and that this was a crossway, that the workman could walk across, you know, instead of having to go across the track. I said, what kind of bridge is that, or something about the bridge, is that McDowell Street Bridge? And he said, no, that we had this in the yard. Of course, this is a depot over there at, Bentonville, I guess, or Asheville.
Is that a little building? What's that little building over there? See?
That's the depot,
The depot.
right here.
That's Asheville.
Depot.
Asheville.
Well, you know where
I
that.
love the people. I think
I used
they
to.
look great.
I've ridden on that many times. It ran from Cincinnati to Jacksonville, Florida, Cincinnati, Ohio to Jacksonville, Florida, and back. And I used to go over to Knoxville on it, catch it, and sometime in the afternoon, I think, and I would get into Knoxville about 10 o'clock at night. You know, and then when I caught it to come back to Saluda, I'd get on about 6 in the morning. You know,
Oh,
come
those
through.
were the good old
Oh,
days.
yeah.
I love riding on trains
here,
better than
man.
anything.
Huh?
Get here at noon,
Yeah, yes.
28?
Yeah, about 1 or 2 o'clock, something like that.
that's where Fergus was.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this, and everybody says this is Saluda because you can see the engine, the cars, and the heifer. And it was just made on that curve, you know, somebody just caught it at the right time.
Or you can see the helper down there behind, yes.
You see
Joe Barber said
they had
that's Saluda.
wiring, see the posts?
Yeah, they're telephone posts or
And look here.
electric wire. Yeah, down below
See,
there, right there.
This is probably the helper right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's the helper pushing up.
Mhm.
And see this?
That's just down below.
Well, that must be a pretty
Oh,
recent
Bryson
one with those telephones.
But the smoke, that must be the helper pushing, because they always got in the back of
You
it.
know, the railroad's got their own lines.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't
Well,
know
that's what
Telegraph lines.
The first time I was ever on a train, I had a date with my husband now. And we didn't have anything to do, so we got on the train at Tryon and rode up to Melrose and waited for the train to come back. That was a big deal, you know. The next time I got on the train, I went to Massachusetts, but that was my first trip on a train.
When I first came here,
I like that.
I wanted the engineer to let me get up and ride all the way on the engine down to Melrose.
Now this, you can see the train over here.
Now that looks more like the first depot.
This was the yard, engine cruise headquarters.
Oh, that.
That was what they called the yard house.
Look at the Christmas tree. Oh, what is
That's
that?
what this
That's what it
is,
was.
a community Christmas tree, and Kathleen, let's see, Kathleen's right in here behind the table.
And it's a Saluda community Christmas tree.
What is that white stuff on the table?
That's the
Little bags
fruit
of.
bags, candy bags. And this, see, that looks like a soldier.
Mhm.
Must have been, do you suppose it
Maybe
was?
a little boy in a soldier's suit. you
I
know.
bet it was a Christmas soldier suit that he had on or something. You
But-
suppose so?
This was
Look
probably
at this hat.
about
Look at
the
this
time the
hat.
war
Look
was
at
over.
this hat right there. Look.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Look at this right here with that, see that big feather?
Oh,
But Kathleen had this picture and she knew that one of these right in here is her. She didn't tell me which one, but
this is Kathleen who?
Stevenson.
Oh,
She's married now to somebody. I met her husband. I can't
Dr.
remember.
Jelly,
Oh, is it Jelly? Doctor?
Jelly.
Is he a doctor?
He's a retired dentist
Oh.
in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is out of that paper in the 60s. And this is when they cleaned the depot. See that sandblaster? And this is when they planned on making it a museum.
That is a long, I remember that and all the sales and things that you had. I know, yes, right.
They asked me, some of the men in town asked me if I would do that and if I would go down and help with the depot. And I said yes, and
Well, I raised sand, the last community club. I said something has got to be done. Now, there's no reason to let that thing fall down.
I'm going to tell you something if you don't know it. I'll tell you, I think Charlene knows this. They started, the man who was head of what was that man, the banker, what was that man's name that moved to?
Burgess?
Burgess.
Ben Burgess?
Yeah, he was from place where I used to live. He was from Newton, North Carolina. His father was a policeman down there, and we knew his father. That didn't matter, except that he's the one that really started about this, fix the depot with the museum. And so the Southern Railway gave it to the city, or I don't know whether they leased it or whether it was a contract. I don't know whether it was done legally, but anyway, the city was supposed to pay $1 a year. And Beatty Hall always told me that they promised to make a museum out of it. And so one day they came to see me and some of the men, and they asked me if I'd go down and help them with it. They wanted to know what color and all to do the inside. And I went down and looked at it, and I saw that beautiful old pine paneling about like that, you know. And I said, yeah, I said, oh my goodness. I said, let's don't paint this, let's clean it up. And they said, oh, we can't do that. And I said, oh, I think we could. And I formed a committee, and what they really did, they called it a boosters club. The banker, they formed this boosters club. And what they did, a bunch of men, you just can't imagine how crazy they were. They paid $1,000 to a man to blast the paint off of it. Took a blasting machine. Yeah, and blasted the paint off of it. And when I went down there, you could almost see through the light, through the boards. It was so thin. And they broke all the windows in it.
Oh, no.
They had to buy new doors. They had to buy new windows. Oh. And the Boosters Club turned around and painted it right back that old yellow, like it was. I thought it was so pretty, you know. I thought, oh, it's just beautiful. Don't paint it, you know. Put something on, leave it like that. Well, anyway, they painted it. And then the Boosters Club, they spent $5,000 down there putting the windows back and putting new doors in and everything. And then they wanted to do the inside. So they came and asked me if I'd go down there, if I'd work, and I said, yes, I will. And so I went down and I formed a committee, and I put someone in the Lions Club and City Council. What's that boy's name? Charlene? Ashley. Frank Ashley. He was a city commissioner, and he went on the board, on the committee. And I put different people, and I had a meeting up here. Oh, they were very enthused about it, you know. So do you remember we had auctions?
Oh, yes, I remember.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we were just so.
Oh, yes.
But we came up whenever we had a chance. We went to several of those.
I just worked myself to death. And Beatty Hall did not want it. And he fought me all the way through it.
Why didn't he want it?
Oh, he didn't want anything. He was very hard to get along with. And so I kept, I went in there one day. I did not know that they had a separate room for niggers to buy tickets. They were not allowed to go in the room with the white people to buy a ticket to get on a train. They had a little room down there. And I went in that room and I said, well, what's this for? And they said, well, that's where the colored people come to buy the tickets. They weren't allowed. And I didn't know that, you know. I never had been in a depot before. And so
here's this other picture I wanted to see.
So
if you're not too busy.
I wanted to clean it up. And
now this is that other one at Melrose with those big rocks. Oh.
Well, did they? What stopped them? They just suddenly stopped.
I'll tell you what stopped
You
them.
come across in front. You don't have to.
I'll tell you.
But see now, see the big cables? And
We
they
couldn't
use
get
this
any cooperation from anybody in the
pull those
town.
logs up on.
I
You
spent,
can see how they
well,
pull
I
them up
spent
on you.
right much of my own money down there.
And they said these are chestnut
I
logs.
had the lobby-like thing, you know, cleaned up, and it was just beautiful. And I had
No,
that antique
but this
varnish put
is
on it,
how
and it was
big some of
just
the chestnut-
beautiful. And I had all sorts of ideas.
This man
I had a
said
friend
it's
in New York that worked for the Dorothy Draper interior decorators, you know, and I could have gotten rugs. I could have got, I just had the most wonderful ideas about fixing it up as a clubhouse, a community house.
Would have been
A
perfect.
community house. And I wanted to put, and that, the little room, and Beatty Hall said, "You've got to make a museum." I said, "You've got to make a museum." I said, I said, "I don't know what to put in there. I don't have anything to go in a railroad museum." I said, "I'm not going to have anything to do with that." I said, "I'll do the main building and you can just bring the stuff." Nobody came forward with anything to go in it. And we couldn't get anybody, everybody. I wrote letters and I sent to all the men, "Would you be willing to help, give some of your time to the Ed Leland and Cater came down there and they said they would do the electric wiring." I said, "We'll pay for it." We were going to have a heater put up. We were going to have a kind of a bedroom built upstairs and let somebody sleep down there. And I got 2 commodes. No, I got 2, somebody gave us commodes, and I got 2 corner in the colored section. They didn't even have any doors on the bathrooms, just one for the men, one for the women. And I got 2 corner lavatories, and somebody gave us the commodes. And they were stolen, left them down there. Anyway, Beatty Hall didn't want it.
So I can change the slide when they're rolling.
And that's what stopped.
And so I couldn't get any cooperation, and I'd spent all of my time down there. And they didn't know, nobody in town to do anything. All these different men, like Jack Ward and some of the carpenters and everything, they wrote me letters. I just said, "If you will help us, just sign that and mail it back to me." And that's all they had to do.
Did you see the big logs?
Yeah, I did. Isn't that cute? Now, put that back.
That's
What year
the,
was that? I've never seen anything
This
look like
was,
it.
at one of the big floods, and it washed out the trestle. See all the water in the background? Look over here at the water.
it was the little one that went back and rebuilt the track and all that,
That
and the
was
little
a-
work engine.
That was a work engine, and this is a
Well, I
Melrose.
wonder what year. I never
I
have seen.
think it was they said 1903 and 1916 they had floods.
Uh-huh. Well, that's a cute little
Let's see,
thing.
I'm gonna go back to that.
Is that the high bridge?
That was the trestle. This is chestnut logs that they've loaded.
What,
See how
look
big
at that,
the
look at that, look at that.
See how
Mhm,
big the
huge.
chestnut trees were?
Mm-hmm.
And this is Ellis Pace, you remember him?
No?
And he moved.
Well, now tell me where he lived and I'll place him. Where did he live?
He moved from Saluda over at Fort Creek to Gownsville in 1925, so that was probably.
No,
before.
yeah.
But this is his oxen. And he helped.
2 or the 1? Yeah,
There's
that's
2 of them, and see these big cables, and see how they rolled them up on that car? This is Pearson's that had all this logging done.
You mean the Pearson family?
Done all that logging out of all their mountains around Melrose. JB said he could remember when they used to shoot the logs down on the cable across the highway from the mountain way up above the highway.
Mm.
And that was JB's born in 1924, so he must have been in the 30s. He could remember shooting the logs. He said, "Lord, if one of them must have fell off, it would have killed whoever."
Well, it certainly would. Hank had a friend who was killed by one of those log trucks that stopped beside the car and the logs fell over and just killed this
What
girl.
about them?
But this was in one.
Isn't that the cutest thing? I'll declare, wouldn't that be something if we had that?
Well,
They've got one that's just looking very much like it that's coming on.
that is one of the wood burner.
Yeah.
Is that one going to come back?
The little friend of Charleston is
And
coming.
it's going to be here for the centennial,
For the
not Coondog Day.
Oh, really?
Yes,
How
not
wonderful.
Coondog Day.
They're
We're
going to
going to
be
have
here.
our Coondog Day. We're going to have it for the centennial.
Oh, that's marvelous. I'm glad you got it. So
Let
it'll be here
me
for our
tell y'all
centennial.
something else in case you don't know it. When we took the depot over, they put the cab down there. Did you see the end?
Mhm,
the
yes,
cab?
on
Well,
the
they
caboose,
gave us
yeah.
that caboose, and we had wonderful plans about that. We were going to fix it up and serve hot dogs and ice cream to the children in the summertime. Oh, we we're
it'd
going to
be
do all these
perfect.
things.
I
But
can't-
Beatty Hall, the mayor, was very opposed to it. very, very close. He told a friend of mine, he said, a bunch of women want to go down there and take that depot, but they're not going to do it. And so I worked about 2 years. I just worked very hard. And I knew that we weren't going to get any cooperation from him or anybody, really. And they used the excuse that they already had the fire, that place over the fire, you know. And I said to Elizabeth Griner was on the committee with me, I said, you know what it looked like when they get through with it, don't you? Well, we were going to have draperies. We had somebody to give the draperies. We were going to buy chandeliers that was in keeping with the depot. Oh, and we were going to make this little room where the colored people. Did you know that little room was down there? You ought to go look at it. I didn't know that it was ever there, but there's a little room in there, and we were going to make that the museum, you know.
This is,
Is that the
That's
old
when they were
hybrid?
building
that's
it.
at Lake Summit.
Yeah, building the Green River
The
trestle.
dam and
I mean, was that the dam, or is that the bridge?
that's the railroad trust at Green River, at Lake Summit.
No, that's not the bridge.
No, I've got some of the bridge, but not in this set of slides.
That's the one that's over
Megan
along
Sterno
here.
had a whole, about a dozen pictures, and she let me borrow them to put on slides of, as it progressed, how the bridge was built. So I'll bring them sometime.
Oh, I love that at Oxen. Isn't that great? I'd love to. Now,
Is
what
that an
was
oxen, or
that?
is that? Oh yeah, two.
Two
Yeah,
oxen.
Yeah.
Now, what was this?
Now, this is coming up Old Higher Gap Road.
And it's just some family, you don't know who it was, or?
I don't know who it is. This was in that phone rep journal very, very long time ago. So if you talk to Mike, he may can tell you he had the picture.
Well, you've got the picture, so we can use it. That's what I'm thinking about, the history. But it would be nice to know who they were.
What is that thing on the ground right there? A sack? Oh, it's a woman.
It's a girl. It's a girl with a
Oh,
long
There's
hair.
a wagon behind it, but that is, you know, of course, everybody come up through the Higher Gap. And that looks like the same oxen that was on.
That's the man on Lady City there too.
Yeah, there's 2, 3, 4 people and one.
Well, now, this isn't whoever it was, Pace, you said, that had the
don't
oxen,
know.
because he sort of looks like the one
It may
in
be.
the other picture.
Well, his hat does look like it. Same
Yeah,
hat.
same
Yeah,
hat.
look like it.
Looks as though maybe they,
They have got a picture that they promised to get me a copy of, the Pace family. It's Vivian Thompson's father and mother.
Is Vivian the one that died?
No, her husband died, Claude Thompson.
Mhm.
But the family promised me last week to get me a picture of the one of theirs, and when I get it, I'm gonna have to put on slides.
Look at the shadow. Look at the shadow. See the shadow down the ground? Sun was shining. Looks like snow up in the top there. A street
that's a
scene.
street
Now,
scene,
isn't
including
it-
nothing there.
Don't
Isn't
know
that-
what street it is. Nobody's ever been able to tell me. This is in Saluda magazine. Nobody's ever been,
A street scene in Saluda.
and nobody's ever been able to.
It does look like
pinpoint
a
that
street to me. It looks like a,
It was-
Well, what is the mountain in the
Oh,
background?
it looks like Crown Peak. I said
not,
it may have been down
really.
Wild Drive.
what could be.
You think that was just dirt?
See, I had all of these slides made before we had
That's
these
Green River Mountain
in Valley.
and Valley.
Station, what is it? Something,
1883,
what is that? ST18?
Staten and Hill, Ruth Staten and Calvin Hill.
Was that public, PUB?
Published
Published.
by.
Published. Oh, published. Mhm.
And see, Jody Barber says, see this 5 1/2, and that the card was 5 1/2. Look down here, see the wagon?
Oh,
See that
yes.
person, see the mule?
Well, is
Yeah. It's
See
a
the-
mule and a wagon
Yeah.
down there. In the brush. You can hardly see it.
says
cornfield.
Green River Mountain.
Oh, is that a
In a cornfield.
cornfield?
Yeah.
That's when the first house, they were just about 3 houses built there, and you could see, Fletcher Church.
Well, see the Episcopal Church right there underneath? Right here, that's the Episcopal Church.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is
The library?
No, that's the school. It's for the library. This is before the turn of the century.
Oh, I see.
Here is Carolina Inn, and here is the house beside the church, Dr.
Gibson.
Sattis. The Gibson house.
And this is the street coming up.
Yeah, that's Carolina Inn, and that was Robinson Hotel.
I
And
know that this,
Now, is that the main street down there, or
no,
wasn't
this
it?
is parallel, that's Henderson Street.
Well, I
Okay,
mean,
right-
well,
right
where
down
your
here.
finger is,
Okay, see
This
the,
is Melrose, and the new Baptist church is built right across.
right over here, right over here's what
But
Baptist
there's a
Church.
Carolina Hotel there somewhere, there,
That's it.
there, yeah.
That's where our parking lot is, across from it. Okay, look at this. This was the old store. See the railroad right here?
oh, is that, yeah.
And that's the first depot right there. And this is a store.
And what store, who owned the store?
This was Tanner's store.
Oh,
And
yes, he was
commissary,
the one that built the railroad.
He's the one that built it, uh-huh.
he was the contractor for the railroad.
Mhm.
Pearson was the surveyor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And he had, this was what he called his commissary, and then his hotel was back up here.
Up on Greenville Street.
Yeah.
He had a
Yeah.
hotel up on
Back
Greenville
up
Street.
behind Homer Taylor's. Can you, did it burn after you came?
No, it was up on Greenville Street someplace, but no, it wasn't there when I came here. But Melrose was here.
Yeah,
here.
well, that Tanner, the mountain house it was right up here above the railroad, behind the bridge over where Homer Taylor's Park is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where the Rembrandt, now the Rembrandts live up there someplace?
No,
is
they
that-
live further up and on the other side. They live on the left
Oh,
side.
I see.
But this is one of the best pictures, and this was in an 1898 magazine,
Hmm.
souvenir, and
Well, it was building up.
Now, where is that?
that's Saluda.
Where?
Is that the depot?
That's one of the first pictures of the depot over there.
Of the one that's here now?
Mm-hmm.
No,
No, of the
no,
old
because
depot?
this is the stores. This is,
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is along where MA
My
Pace is.
shoes.
Oh,
Get them specs. Get your specs.
I lost my shoes. I stood up on this thing, took my shoes up, and I don't have my shoes.
Your feet getting cold? That's your picture, dear.
did you find it?
No, that picture you let me borrow. No, I never
Oh.
did find your other picture.
Oh, did you get this?
I got it on slides.
Oh, did you? Well,
Yeah.
good, well,
I
good.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you for this. You tell Linda to come see me again.
She is. She's working full time now, and she don't get out much.
Well, I know that the first depot,
Now, that,
I had the picture of it. I know I'm right about it.
Now, do you
It was
think?
across the railroad.
Do you
and-
think this looks like it?
No, not at all. No. It was, no, it doesn't. It just looked like a plain little a house like that, a very small thing. And
Well,
it
this
was,
one is small.
well,
now
it,
this-
it didn't have a lot of windows like that. And it
This
had,
is 2 doors. See, that's 2
well,
doors.
no, it wasn't like that at all.
Oh, I
And-
wish we could have got yours.
Well, it was across, it was between the railroad track and the
tennis court?
and the tennis court. It was right in there. And it was on a pasteboard. It was a thick picture. I'll bet Lillian Marcella would give it back to me. She was going to write an article
See,
about
you
it.
can see the top of Piney up here, and they had, either they'd had a fire up there, or they'd logged off all the trees, and it looked sort of bare. But
How's
this
that
is-
Smith? No, that's not
Well,
Smith.
what's this building right here?
That is either, that's one of the, you mean this? This is some of the first stores.
Hmm.
I got some other pictures.
Now, those are
Now,
the first.
this is the one where the present post office is, and this is the first post office. See right here, it says post office. And this was a store, and this was the barber shop for Isaac Means. And he was an old colored man, he was a barber, and they said he wore a top hat and tails.
He did. And do you know, he cut my hair when I came here.
Yeah.
I had him
See,
cut my
here's your
hair.
Episcopal Church steeple.
Mhm.
See it right side the chimney?
Mhm. And is that the chimney on the building right here, the store building, you think?
Yeah, that was the barber shop, the store building, the post office, and of course this post office. I've got a picture someplace now. I guess this is where Baumgartner's boarding house was across the street, you know. But this was also used as the photographer's headquarters one time. This building right here.
Well, that Bamberger house, burned after I came here. Somebody set on fire after I came here.
Now this is a pretty good shot. See, you can see where the old buildings are now. That was Daddy Hart's store.
Was that the back of it or the front of it?
The front, see this MA Pace right here.
Yeah, and up there is Lola's up right there, isn't that
Well, you
right?
can't see Lola's, it's behind the tree, right?
Oh, that's right, and that's the city hall, I see.
Well, what's this little building over here?
That,
Is that the station?
that's the yard office right there where, in the Christmas tree, you know, we saw that little building.
Now, is that what you thought was the,
No, it doesn't look like the one I had.
Okay, this was,
Mine was older than that. I mean, the building looked like it was I can't remember any windows being in it much.
this building right here was across over there where the flower garden is in. I feel like I'm pointing at you.
no, that's fine.
But this was used as a commissary. The post office was there at one time. In fact, they said the first post office was in this building, over there where the flower garden is. And the yard office, the road went between them.
Well, look here, let me ask you something.
And they
Is
used
this M.A. Pace's right here?
No.
No, that one is right there, the big brick building.
I tell you, when I came here, between M.A. Pace's,
And what's now Western
shop.
Auto, I guess.
No, the
Oh.
other way, where Jack Morris used to have his shop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, between that and M.A. Pace's was a road that went up through there, and also there was a bank there that's been torn down. They had two banks.
I
there.
remember when the bank building
Yeah, the
was
bank
there.
building was between,
Oh, that looks like Emily Pace's, don't you? It's too close to the city hall to be Lola's, because I believe Lola's building is just right in here behind
that
that.
could be part of the bank building. They tore it down, you know. They tore the bank building down.
I don't think it had but one floor.
I
the
think
bank
you're
building.
right. I think you're right. No, it didn't have enough
I
space.
tell you, I've got some pictures looking from across the railroad, from the park, straight into Saluda. When in fact, I believe your picture
Yeah, I've
is,
got it.
but this was some of the very old pictures of the streets. And of course,
Oh,
this
there's
is,
another one,
oh,
yes.
Peter hated this
Why?
because it looked so trashy.
Oh,
That looks like a casket out there, doesn't it?
That was some old showcases.
Now, whose buildings were those?
Now you
Is
can
that
see
Lola-
that's
is
M.A.
that-
Pace's, and there you can see Lola's, and there
there's
you
a
can
city
see
hall, yes.
Mhm.
And in
that's
between there,
that's Sunset Mountain up there. Just behind it then.
Up
That's where.
behind it. But
The
look in
objects.
this one now. See, this Lola's was sort of in behind the tree in the shadow. And when you look at this one, see, you see Lola's good.
that's right, yeah. Well, now, what were those little buildings in between Lola's and M.A.
The
Pace's?
wooden building. Wooden buildings.
Well,
Some
whose
of the
building
wooden
was this
stores.
right here?
Little wooden.
That was Daddy Hart's
That's where he.
store, and the undertaking. This was the undertaking parlor, and this was his
Well, when I
store.
came here, the undertaking parlor was right down here.
Well,
on-
see, he
on-
built this building later.
Oh. Mhm.
This is about the turn of the century, shortly after. Now, see, this one is where he had his, Garin had his building one time. I think at this time, they said this, at one time it was a post office and a store, and it also was a blacksmith shop later, and this was the first post office. We saw the side view on it, but this is in that 1898 book, Gertrude. So, they said
isn't
that there was a
that
livery stable and a blacksmith shop.
Look at that little thing up on the window. Is that a little awning? Or what is that little thing jutting on the window?
I think it was some sort of a sign.
Oh, is that what it is? I guess they put shoes
For
on the
heaven's
horses.
sake,
didn't they?
where was that?
This is inside Lola's daddy's store, and this is Lola.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
And I bet you that's Jack.
that's Jack.
And Charlie.
No,
You know.
this is Betty Jo Thompson, Betty Jo Pace. There's Herbert Pace. Let's see, this is Herbert right here. And
And
that's
it's dark.
Lola's,
Dark.
that's Lola and Lola's daddy. And this is Calvin Hill, this is John Gordon.
Well, you know that Calvin Hill was the postmaster when I came here. He was in the post.
Well,
he was the
Hill
postmaster.
and Staten is the one, he's the one that had the photographer shop with the postcards.
Really? Come here a minute. Oh, sure. Is that Jack or is that little Roy? You know Lola
That's
Ostrich.
Jack and Betty Jo Thompson.
There's Jack Ward and Lola. See?
Lola with the glasses on, and this is
Betty
Betty.
Jo, she worked in the nursing home.
That's Betty Jo and
Betty
that's
Hospital.
and that's Jack. You know.
The little
Jo
ones.
nurse, wasn't Betty Jo a nurse?
No.
No, now that's Betty, Lola's sister.
Yeah.
This is Betty Jo Thompson now.
Yes,
And Betty Thompson was the nurse.
yes.
That's
Now that-
Lola's sister.
Now, where was
This
this?
is Jack and Betty Joe. They had been to kindergarten.
And Lola wears her hair that way, still wears her hair like that. And that's her father, because I
She
remember
still
her
looks the
father.
same.
And,
Mr.
Louis-
Thompson, Herbert Pace, Calvin Hill, and Jess
I remember him.
Gordon or John Gordon, one of the
Was that
Gordons.
somebody at the door?
And that was in the store that's now Lola's store? I mean,
Yeah.
still is?
Yeah. See, it was her daddy's.
Mhm.
Now, you know where the store was when I came here. You know where Lola's store was when I came here?
Yeah. Well, it was Pace and Thompson.
Yeah. it
M.A.
was Pace.
Paces.
Yeah.
Well, it
This-
wasn't Pace and Thompson, it was just Thompson.
This is one of the brochures, one
Yeah,
of the
I've
maps.
i've got that. It's not
Mike
correct.
Leland drew it, see.
Well,
so-
it's not really correct. I have that.
Mhm. It was in one of the magazines.
This is Pearson Files.
Now, that's the one yeah, that's the one I drew. An artist came to visit me, and we went down and sketched it one day, and,
This is
Pack
Packard
that
Files.
falls.
yeah, I never have been there.
Have you been to Packard, Ian?
No, I haven't, and I'm dying to go one of these times.
Well, we should go soon. This is Pace's file now. Gertrude, you
I'd
know
love
about
to go
Pace's file?
there.
No, what is that? Logs? Is that a house, or what is that?
No, this is over at that Pace's grist mill.
Now, where was that?
Code Pace. You know, you go out beyond Wade's and turn across the railroad and go back in there. And they had a mill, and I have Betty Thompson, J.C. Thompson's wife, and then went to Florida this spring. And she found 3 old postcards. Somebody had a collection and they died. And she found 3 from Saluda. One of them was Pace's grist mill. One of them was the Leland house. And the other one was Pot Shows before they built the electric plant. And she paid $1 a piece for the postcards, so she brought them back and brought them to me to get them on slides.
Oh, wonderful.
And this was at the
You
mill.
know who that is? What's that girl that used to be a nurse down at the hospital?
Octavia.
Octavia's
Octavia's grandfather.
grandfather. So you had that.
And this was at the grist mill, and this was the waterfall, you know. And,
Gosh, I'd be afraid those logs would fall down on me, wouldn't you?
Well, now, the mill wasn't down underneath there.
No,
was
the
it?
mill was up on
Up
top.
on top, yeah, I couldn't imagine that
Well, what are those?
they were just rocks down there, I think, underneath.
Looks like
Stalactites or something. Maybe they had sort of
No, that's
propped
the
up.
water. That's
Was
the
that the water
running
coming
through.
down?
Oh,
These are from that 1898, and this is Bradley Falls.
now that is pretty.
This is Little Bradley, I
Now
think.
you know that's pretty.
Now,
I have that 1898 one in my, Cater had it. It's that one from Melrose Inn and
have you got no food?
I've got them in my bag, so and carefully closed so that nothing will happen to them. I promised him I'd guard them with my life.
You know what this is? This is the Nars.
The what?
The Nars.
The Narrows. Oh.
The Narrows over on Green River.
Where are they?
It's over on Green River where the whole river narrows down. You can step across.
Hmm.
You know that boy was.
I used to like to go down to Pot Shows.
This
They had a lot of
this is
fish
on
down there.
farther down towards Fish Dock.
Yeah. Oh, I used to go. I've been to Fish Top. Is that
Well, this
where-
is the Narrows. You go down Camp Creek and go
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Horace Pace took our preacher when he first come here and like to kill him. Then laughed at him because he's a sore. Took him Bengay to rub on his legs. And Horace laughed.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
yes.
now that's a nice picture.
This is one of the postcards.
Now, when was that?
This is Princess Theater. This one was postmarked in 1936.
Now, where was the Princess Theater? Was it right here?
Where
Yeah, it was
Clifford
down there
built it.
to the right. No, the next one. See, it says Princess on top.
That's it. It was there when I came here. And this was let's see.
That's the drugstore and the post
Well,
office.
where was the bank? Oh, let's see.
It was on the,
on.
yeah.
Yeah. It was on right beside.
This is where Clifford's building and the print shop is now.
Mhm.
It's where the theater was.
Yeah.
And then and the bank building was next, and then there was a road because when I first came to Saluda, I missed Saluda. My husband called me. I was tired of visiting. I was tired going all over the country with him, and I went to visit my sister, and I had a little baby. Bill was a little baby, and he's called me. He came over to build the road. When I came here, it was a dirt road right through Saluda, and the ruts were that deep, and your car would just go that way because you couldn't get out. And he said, "Come on over here." He said, he called me and said, "Come on over to Saluda." I didn't even know this place like Saluda. I was living down in Georgia, and he said, they have paved streets and everything. You'll like this little town. So he'd given me a Chrysler special built roadster, and I put that little baby, he was just about 3 or 4 weeks old, about 4 weeks old, something like that. And I came through, and I saw Saluda Depot. I saw the word Saluda, and there wasn't anything around it. And I thought, well, I've never seen where's the town? And so I went right through Saluda.
She shut her eyes and missed it.
No, I went right through it, and I saw my husband's, he detoured everybody down Melrose. He shipped everything into Melrose, all of his material and everything. And so he was building the road from the Henderson County line down to Tryon, all the way down the mountain. And I saw his sign, so I turned off, went down to Melrose, looking for Saluda. And I saw one of his trucks. I met one of his trucks coming up, and I stopped it, and I said, of course he knew me, the boy knew the car and all. And I said, I've missed Saluda, where is it? And he said, well, you've already passed through it. And so he said, if you'll turn around, Mrs. Kirk, I will take you and show you where your husband has rented a house. And he brought me up that alley right down there. He came right up that alley between Pace's store. There was a road that came straight up, and came straight up Charles Street. And he had rented Legion Sterno's, the Harriet house over there for us. It was vacant. I never will forget that.
Oh, there's the bandstand now, is that right?
And on that postcard, you see the tennis courts, but see, they're dirt, but they're well.
Oh,
done.
beautiful.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, dirt courts
They
were
just-
good tennis courts.
They just paved them about 6, 7 years ago. JB paved them.
Well, it costs too much to keep up dirt courts.
Now,
They're
see,
better
see,
than...
you
Now,
see-
that's up there where I remember that.
The bandstand.
Yeah.
But this is the tennis courts, and this,
Yeah.
well, the steps are still there. So this was taken from just about the railroad,
Must have been sort of standing on the track.
or maybe across the street and just didn't get the railroad.
That was before they built that little, what they call it, Boy Scout place up there.
Yeah, and
The
the
pavilion.
pavilion.
The pavilion, that was big. I remember that. I
This is
remember
in
it was
that
like
Saluda magazine.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, this is old seminary building.
Oh, now that's where I want to have a restaurant.
No, not there. That one's gone.
Oh.
See, this
Oh,
is
this
in
is
the
the old cemetery.
1898
Oh,
building.
I see, yeah.
Look,
Mhm.
and this
Well,
is
that's
the
the other
end
one,
view.
that's right.
This is the log cabin, and this is where the Heatherly parents lived.
Oh, now that we've got to have in the
and
Is
history.
that a man standing up there?
Yeah, the
Yes, he's
seminary.
standing
see
up
the-
on the,
see
yeah,
the
there's the
building, the
seminary
seminary?
there, yes.
Okay, this was their industrial arts building, and it
Oh,
was torn
no.
down, what, in the 40s?
It was torn down. It was there when I came here.
Hank says he remembers it as a
and
kid.
see that boy look up here.
Oh, there's somebody way on top of the
Look up
chimney.
And this is, they say that this was one of the houses that was in, when Saluda was incorporated, there was only 2 houses within what now is the city limits, and this is one of them, and they claim that Daniel Boone stayed all night in this house, so who knows?
You know,
But this
I
was
had
one.
just come here, and I didn't have any say-so about anything, and I was real young. But I certainly did hate to see them tear that down. They destroyed it. They
That's
just
a
tore it
shame.
down.
Lois got something out of the chimney, a rock out of the chimney.
Well, they tore it down
Didn't she
because I
tell you
remember.
about it?
No, I haven't
Yeah.
seen
See,
it.
this
Oh,
is
there
it.
it is again from the front.
Now, this is the pageant that they had in 1916.
That's the one that they had down at the city hall.
Yeah.
Look how people are dressed. Isn't that something?
This was a play,
It was a play. They
and
were.
they took it to Asheville and to
What does
Spartanburg
that
and
say? P.A.D.?
pageant of 1915, I believe it is.
19 and...
Or is it?
It's 15 or 16, and Kathleen Stevenson was in it. And this is Hub Thompson. This one right here, and this is his cousin, Herschel.
Is that a man with the big hat on, or is that a
Yeah.
woman? Is that
See,
a
they
man?
were all in costume,
Oh.
and this is some of the students. Now, some of these, now, this is Kitty Baumberger with the check dress on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And different ones. Now,
Kitty-
Maud and Bertha can tell you who.
Kitty
Look at
Bamberger.
the dress there. I love
Now, that's
that.
the teacher.
That's a teacher.
Well,
That's
that's not
at the
too
seminary.
far from now, what they're wearing.
Well, that high neck's pretty.
Here's some more. Now, this was a
Now, look at-
graduation place. See, they all got.
And look at the hat the
baskets of
teacher
leather.
has on there.
Yeah. And this is some of the parents. This is
Look
Buck.
at that two little ones. One
Okay, this is Buck Thompson's mother,
right there.
Molly.
See the three little four.
This is some of the mothers.
Oh, I see.
And this was this, now, they tell me that Atlas and Alma's, I think these two are Atlas and Alma Thompson. But see, they had the baskets of leaves, and they're all dressed up. See, these are holding flowers. Let's see if the next one. This is a graduation class, and Miss McFarland Ruth is in this. Yeah,
It's what?
she was one of the graduates. And this, I believe this is 1912 graduating class. And she told me whoever one of them are, and I've got it written down.
Now,
Oh,
where
yeah.
did they graduate from?
The seminary.
The seminary.
It's a
Then,
private school run
right.
by American missionary.
Yeah, and I have that little brochure that you
Yeah.
gave me, the Xerox. That's what I was trying to check on.
And they also
$7 a month, room and board and tuition.
Well, it was 6.
Yeah, well, 6 was for the lower grades, but the seniors was 7.
Wasn't. But the day students was $1 a month.
$1 a
The
month for
town
day
students
students.
come for
Well, I
$1.
think I was talking to Ruth yesterday or something. I'm sure I was talking to Ruth about this.
There you go.
I used
There,
to
that's
pay, I used to
mathematics.
pay a nickel an hour and 10 cents an hour, and some man in town charged 25, and I thought that was too much. When I came here, he charged me for 25 cents an hour, and I thought that was too much because I could get all the help I wanted for 10 or 15 cents an hour.
Have you heard from Mr. Waits?
Huh?
I talked to him.
Mr.
He thinks that he has it up for sale. I mean, somebody I think approached him wanting to buy it, and he gave him a fantastically high price. And he said if they don't take it, then he's not going to sell it because he really doesn't want to sell it.
I understood he didn't.
Is
He
that a
sort of
house?
wants to
But
protect
yeah,
the
but
other.
if he wants to be able to come. But he said he's going to talk to his wife about it and let me know.
Whose house is it?
This is Mountain
Mr.
Manor. I
Waits?
want to run a tea room there.
Well,
But that'd be for
Oh.
not a tea room, but for lunch and a light meal. I don't want a big restaurant
you
with
know,
big meals or anything. That's
Charlene
different.
probably knows this, but Dick Williams, he was running for mayor, and he knows that man, and he was going to get that man to give that house to the city for a community house. And he didn't win the election, so he didn't do it, but he could have done it.
I don't think they want to get rid of it. They really want to keep it unless they find
They
someplace
like to
else.
come up for the weekends.
Yeah, and
But
they
it
like to
costs-
bring a crowd up for the weekends, and evidently they have money, so it isn't that
And
important.
he sort of writes some off his income tax. on his
I'm sure he must.
This is where the nursing center is. They tore the old house down. And they built the nursing center, but this is one of this is the stagecoach.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
Yes.
This is, was on that old Howard Gap Road.
It's the cottage of Mr. and Mr. Ransom Pace.
And
Yes, now he was one of the oldest Paces he wasn't the oldest one, because the
This
oldest one
is-
died in 1826 or something.
1816.
16. But this was his son?
Son.
That's right.
And this is Kathleen Stevenson's grandfather. You never did know Kathleen Stevenson? Her husband run the service station down here for years.
I probably did. I'm so bad about names. I never
sure
know
your husband
anybody's
remembers.
names. Yeah.
Now this, Miss Kirk, do you remember this house that was down there next to Library Hall?
I bet you that's the one that I told you about, that the Episcopal Church owned it, and the Heatherlys lived there.
They had a school now. They called it the free school.
Oh, they had a school in the library hall
Well,
downstairs.
this was, this house looked so much like the one out here we call the Taylor House down below Miss Ravenel. Just directly across from Mountain Manor. It was built just like this, and had
Well,
these steps and porches.
One of the first, I tell you who told me, Don Revis told me, he used to work for me when he was young, and he told me, I had the library open down there, and down in the basement, you could go down there, And he said, Mrs. Kirk, he said, did you know that the first school in Saluda was held downstairs in the library hall downstairs? And he said, I went to school down there. And I went down, and it caught on fire. And he told me that the building had caught on fire, and you could see where it burned a little bit down underneath the library. And,
But this was an old house that was between, wasn't it between the library
And
and
this-
the high school building?
yeah,
there?
but they tore that house down, and
They
and
called this the free school because, see, the seminary was the one that was the boarding school, and this was the free school.
well, I know that Mrs. Gillette, Julia Gillette, taught school down underneath the library because.
Well,
Don
she
told
died
me-
before the library was finished.
Well,
This is probably where she taught school.
yeah, maybe.
Because
Well, I thought well, maybe it was somebody else, but anyway, they had school down there because Don
and there was a Mrs. Barber that taught at this school too.
Mm-hmm.
I carried these to the schoolhouse in Evangeline Barber, you know, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Robert Barber. And when I said a Miss Barber taught school over there, they laughed. They said, "We knew she'd been around forever." Now,
Now
this-
that's the library.
Yeah.
And downstairs, it was pretty, now, yeah, that building was put in her memory. She died in 1960.
But I'm so happy that the people that bought it have
Have-
fixed
oh,
it
they're
up
doing
just
a nice
beautiful.
job on
Well,
And I think our committee ought to send.
I think they ought to, yeah.
Well,
we
wasn't it Dick
should.
Williams, doesn't he own it?
No, he sold it. He
Who
said that's the
said?
biggest headache he ever had.
Well, it was. They had,
He couldn't get
Jessie hit next door, she told me that the office people lived over there. They
Yeah,
never was.
and they tore it up, and he couldn't get the rent out of them. So the people that bought it, he let them have it. He tried his best to sell it to JB, and JB said, "You crazy? I don't want it." He wanted $5,000 down and just let him, give him payments. And so somebody that lived there took it over, and they have just fixed it up beautiful.
Oh, that's good. It looks nice from outside. They need some
And
scrubbing.
Bertha showed me where Miss Gillette put her Bible in the cornerstone. And she showed me which corner it was in. It's the far corner over here on this.
You see, I've got, or at least I guess of the church all about, Miss Gillette and all the things she did here, She's the one that started all those clergy houses out there.
I want some information about Dr. Gillette.
Well, the only thing I know about him, he came here and had a drugstore. And people started coming up here from Columbia, South Carolina, because of the heat and all. Most of them Columbia at that time. We didn't have any Florida people here, I understand.
Charleston and Columbia.
Yeah.
Florida was too far. Besides, there's nobody in Florida then,
You're
really,
right.
because
You're
they
right.
hadn't started the
And,
Florida boom.
So they got together, the men used to get in the back of his drugstore down there and talk and tell jokes and laugh and probably smoke cigarettes and all. And so they started a library. They started exchanging books down in Dr. Gillette's back of his drugstore. And then they decided that they got so many books, they decided they'd build a little house. And I have seen a picture of the house. It was right down there, right near the library, a little cottage back there, just one little room. And the men,
Clubhouse.
it was kind of a clubhouse. And the men that came up, Dr. Gillette and all the men came up here, went down there, and women weren't allowed to go in there. So they laughed and joked and probably stole drinks and, drank and all
we're
like
gonna
that.
have to get
But
to the
anyway,
slides
that
next
was
time.
that was the beginning of the library.
Because
and then
I'm
Miss
gonna have to
Gillette
cut this-
showed up, and she was a sister in the Episcopal Church, and or
We'll
deacon.
talk
I
after you leave. I'll run on
I
through
don't
the
think she was
slides.
a sister. Anyway, she started, I can tell you about it later, she started the clergy houses out
Yeah,
here.
Ruth wants to see all the slides, so
All right.
we'll talk later.
Now, what is that?
This is the gym, and it was the first gym in Polk County, and it's where,
Oh, I remember.
It's still there.
yeah, it's where they have.
It's where they have square dances.
They started square dances in the library, though. Now, this was part of the old seminary.
Oh.
The city bought it in about 1920 and operated it for about 5 years, but they went up from $1 to $5, and nobody could afford to go, and so then public schools took it over. But this was part of the seminary building.
There's Friendship
Yeah,
Baptist Church.
and there's a grave in Friendship Cemetery, 1834, and it's a Dalton.
A Dalton.
Dalton.
She
Dalton.
said Dalton. Uh-huh.
But this is one of the more recent pictures, and that's the Presbyterian Church. This is the Baptist Church about 1898.
That's the old Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that they've done over.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 1936.
That's the same one, isn't it?
The trees is the biggest difference that I could tell. Of course, this was a different view. This is the Methodist Church. in 1898, and then in 1936, see, they had added windows in the front. And the trees had grown up. This is the Episcopal Church in 1898, Miss Gertrude.
Look at the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And the steps, and look, see, there's steps going down both sides. Now they come straight out the front.
Well, you see, yeah. What year did you say that was?
There it is, coming out the front.
1898,
And this is when?
1936, 38 years.
I've got that picture. I have that. They had postcards of it.
This is another one of the, I think this was Crystal Springs. See, it says Crystal Springs Apartments, and this was their advertising brochure, a map of Saluda. Now, this is that mountain house.
And where is
In
that?
1898, it's the one up behind, you know where
Oh,
the
up
city
across
garage-
the, yes, up
Where,
across
where,
the,
where?
Eunice can tell you where it was.
up across the city, from the city, up by,
They
where,
have-
where Eunice's house is now, isn't it about
Yeah,
there?
Eunice says, oh, we used to go up and have square dances. We used to go up to the parties. She'll tell you, this is a later picture.
Of that same mountain house.
The bishops, after they closed it as a boarding house, they lived in the house. Just,
Now, where was that? I don't remember anything like
It's
that.
where Eunice
it
Pace's
was
house
before you
is
came
now.
to Saluda.
Oh,
No,
where
it
Eunice
was,
is.
no,
No, it isn't. Oh, it's on beyond, it's
it's-
across the street.
That's not the Carlton Leland, is it?
no,
No.
no, this was the mountain house that the first mayor built.
Oh, so it's
Canada.
it's across Greenville Street from Eunice's house, then back behind about where the
Is that,
firehouse is.
is that the
It's
Siebel?
about across from the Gulf.
Is that the Siebel house?
No,
Well, there was a big house
it's
there.
up behind Homer Taylor's. And it's mountain
You
house.
mean behind, on the same street up there?
Between Homer Taylor's and the bridge. Up
Homer
where
Taylor.
Grandma's attic is. It's between Homer's and Grandma's attic.
Oh, it's far closer down to the road than Smith Hill or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
At the back of it, backed up. See, now this is from probably back where the flower garden is.
Oh, I see. Looking up
Looking
the
up
hill.
the hill. And
Well-
then this is sort of a side view.
You know where the medical center is now? Well, there was a great big
I
house
got a
like that
picture
called the
there.
Siebel House. Now, that's the Carlton Leland. No.
That's-
Is that S-E-O-N?
That's Osceola in
S-E-O-N. I
1898.
remember that. That's S-E-O-N.
That's across from Beatty Hall,
Yeah.
Dolly Hall.
S-E-O-N. I remember that.
Dolly told, and this is the same thing.
That's SEO?
That's Osceola, but Dolly told the Keys thing, she said that they had torn it down and they took part of it to Crown and put it in that either pine press in, I think. Took some of the lumber, and Dolly said they had torn it all down. And the chimneys were standing, and she said one morning about 7:30 that they heard this terrible noise and said her mama screamed and they thought the Japs had come. And it was the chimneys that fell. But they were scared to death. Yeah.
You know,
And now, where is that? You said Beatty Hall, but I don't know where Beatty Hall
Yeah,
is.
where Buck Thompson, keeper of the bees, out towards the
like
cemetery.
going
All
to
right,
the
okay.
cemetery. You know, where those
Yeah.
two houses,
I know.
right at the end of Henderson Street. You know, well, right
You
up on
can
the
look
left there.
across and see.
That was there when I came here. And
Oh, I
I knew
see.
that Mrs.,
Campbell
yeah, but there was
and
another.
Killian.
No, there was another one. She came here a long time after I came here.
And Spratt.
Spratt, Mrs. Spratt. Yeah.
See, it was
I knew. That's
Mr.
what Mrs.
Spratt's aunts is the
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
had
Well,
it.
I knew Mr. and Mrs. Spratt.
This is the one they
Fields?
just sold up on Greenville Street.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Yeah,
On
who
Greenville
bought
Street,
that?
that's a beauty.
This was one of the inns, the
Did-
Oaks, and this was was this the Lane House?
Yes, it was. Must have been. Yeah.
They just
I knew
redone
the
that
Lanes.
thing. It's
You know,
beautiful.
I lived in Charleston, and they were from Charleston.
And this is where J.C. Thompson lives.
That's
Yeah.
where Mrs.
That's-
Clifford
yeah.
lived. That's where the Clifford. You knew her, didn't you, Ruth?
Yes.
Mrs. Clifford.
I remember when she still ran
Now,
that
this is
Melrose. Now,
Melrose,
that was,
And some of these Melrose things is out of that book. Now, this is a postcard of Melrose. And this is some out of that book.
Melrose.
I finally found our old house listed as one of the boarding houses here.
Oh, good.
I'm tickled to death because I
Now,
always
that's
thought,
one of the clergy houses, isn't it?
Now, this is Melrose Inn Cottage, that cooker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They lived, yes.
These are
that's-
from
you're
that
right.
book. Now, this is Mountain Home.
Yeah, it
And
sure
this
is.
Mountain Home opened in 1919.
now that's the one that's now the railroad
Railroad
house.
house.
Look at that woman, how she's dressed.
Now where's the pines?
That's right down here, right down on the corner
It's
here for
private home.
me.
This is Miss Hopkins.
Uh,
But now
that's-
it belongs to Miss Stroop's daughter.
Mhm.
It-
Frances
it's
Stroop,
right
but
on the
it's-
corner. The back of it goes to the back of the washer.
Oh yes,
The
I know
laundry.
where you mean.
It's been
Yes.
completely
It's on
remodeled
Henderson
with the
then.
big columns. Now
That's
this
the truck.
Carlton Lee.
And that is now Saluda
is
Inn.
Saluda Inn. That's another.
The Saluda.
And this was Dr. Gillette's house. Dr. Gillette built this.
I
He
didn't know.
did?
Built the
Yes.
Charlton Lee.
I didn't know that.
And
Now
this-
what was he a medical doctor or?
He's the first. And
Now
this
where?
is Fairview House up here on top of the hill. You know where it is?
No.
Dan?
That means the first
Just go
house.
straight on up the hill here. It's before
Oh,
you
it's the
got
one
to
they've just,
Stoney's.
the one, oh, yeah, all right. Somebody's just sold that not too long ago, haven't they? They're doing it over.
Now these was the
There's Mrs. Spratt.
No, this is Miss Box.
Oh, you're right.
They were the
well,
ones that
doesn't-
run Fairview House. And their dog.
Well, is that Mrs. Locke and that Mrs.
How much box?
Box? This is
The lockbox combination of dogs.
This is Mrs. Box, and this is Mrs. Locke.
Were they sisters? These two ladies are sisters. And I believe they said one of them was Edgerton, Miss Edgerton.
I don't know.
I think Bill Edgerton
But
told
I
me.
remember her. I remember the two there.
And their dog, and somebody remembered.
When I first came here, I went to a bridge party up there, and I was just about 20 years old or something like that, and I got booby prize.
Oh.
And Mrs. Locke said, "I'm going to give you this because you got low score," and she gave me a little needle, put needles in, and I still have it.
Oh, for him.
I never will forget that.
Now this is Boxwood Terrace, and this is where Kershaw Lodge.
Yes. Oh,
And it
yes.
was
See?
one of the boarding houses too.
And look at those little boxwoods, and now they're huge. We went over there yesterday.
This is
How
our
is
Saluda
she? Is she
magazine.
better?
She's better. She was kind of tired yesterday. She shouldn't have done it. Lloyd was coming back yesterday, and she wanted to have some people, and we went in for drinks.
All right, dear, here's your Siebel's house, Skyview Lodge.
Here's Siebel.
Skyview Lodge.
And they tore it down, you know,
Yeah.
built
Then
the
they built the
medical
medical
Well,
center.
when I first came here, I went to I knew the Siegels quite well. They were from Columbia, South Carolina, and I remember the house.
The Siebels also gave the baby hospital
They did.
building.
Well, they gave it to
Mr.
LaSalle,
Smith,
to
yeah, to
Dr.
use.
Smith.
Well, I
Okay,
thought the
this is the
Montgomerys-
tavern in the town.
The Montgomery, Charlene, the baby hospital, the Spartanburg Baby Hospital, was given. That was Walter Montgomery's father's home. That was the Montgomerys gave that.
Was it?
Oh yes, but now I don't know who gave the hospital, the baby hospital up on Smith Hill. I don't know about
You
that.
see, there were both.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there was
one-
the clinic, sort of. for
One
the
was a
free.
clinic owned by Dr.
This
Smith.
looks
and
like
the other was-
Christmas decorations, doesn't it?
Charity.
Mhm.
One was a charity, but that was a Montgomery home. I know that was a Montgomery home.
Well, now, where is that? What is
This
it?
is where the craft shop is.
The craft shop,
And it was
yes.
Lucky Tavern, and in that
Well,
Saluda
where is that?
magazine,
Where is the
it
craft
says
shop?
that they have
Is it up on
inner-spring
the corner?
mattresses. Yeah,
Is what?
it's Martin Tea Room.
Was that the Martin T. room?
Yeah. But this was in the Saluda magazine, and they called it Lucky Tavern.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if
Well,
they
it was a
served-
tea. It was a tea house when I came here. A woman, you go in there and sit down and have a cup of tea.
Miss Martin, Miss Bill
Yeah,
later had the tea room.
yeah.
But it was a tavern then in 1936.
Oh.
They called it Lucky Tavern. Now, I don't know whether they served drinks or not.
Well,
But
they
just-
couldn't in 1930s. Yeah, they could too, because Prohibition
But
was over then, wasn't it?
Upstairs was the rooming part of it. And this is
There's
Crystal
one of your
Springs.
magazines. Was that say autumn
Autumn and winter.
and
And
winter?
I need one
37,
copy. I lent it to Boo and she lost it. You know, when I took it into her that day. The day that I wanted her to look at it and so that she could come over and talk that night at one of the magazines. I don't remember which one it was. But
15
I'm missing
cents
it.
they got for it.
One of the sets you bought? I don't know if I got any extras because they come in sets.
Well, because I'm missing it.
You find out which one you're missing. Now this
Now,
is
where is that?
this is Bon Air Cottage.
Where
And
is
this
that?
is the Hain Cottage. This is the one that Kit lives in.
Kit Smith. Oh, yes.
But they said that they had this built, and this was in that 1898 magazine, and the house cost $860.
You'll have to put all that in your history. I think that'd be.
If I could.
Now this is Miss
get all
Evelyn
this.
Waddell's house.
Where
You
is
mean
that?
over on Henderson Street, next to the Jones house?
There's
Well,
I
yeah, I remember.
This is 1898, and those big pine trees, you
Do
can't
you know?
hardly see
Do
the
you
house.
know who that?
That's it.
Do you know what cottage that looks like up on Greenville Street? That a couple of foreigners came in here and bought it. Do you remember? Doesn't it look like cottage on Henderson Street?
Well, I'll tell you, it's probably one of these next ones I got, but O.B. Guerin built this house, and every house that he built, you see all of these little doodads and all of these, you can see the style of the builder in every one and just about tell who built them.
Well,
Kathleen Stevenson told me, said, this is the one where Leon Thompson lives. I said, Kathleen, it's not so. I said, this is over there next to where Ed Leland lived, and that's where Miss Waddell lives. And she said, you know, you're right, because said they lived there when Lucille was born.
Well, I knew the Waddells. I knew Mr.
Is this one you're talking about?
That's it.
The Lane.
Yeah. No,
Lane
that's
Cottage.
not. That's not the Lane Cottage.
This is the Lane Cottage. The other was the Lane Hotel.
Oh.
The
Well,
Oaks.
yeah, that's the.
This is where Mary Brown lives now,
Yeah, that's right.
except it's got
That's
a
right.
porch all around the front.
Mm-hmm.
They bought it, I believe, wasn't a woman from France,
Someplace I forgot.
and that's who they bought it from. Suge Brown, you know, bought it. Now this Mr. Hudgens, Gertrude, you know anything about him?
No, I don't. Where was that?
We think, different people in town, we try to figure out where this is. And if it's not the Piercy house on the corner across from Buck. You know, Piercy's from, where they from, St. Matthews or somewhere down there. We think that that's where this house is.
See this thing right here. A lot of the houses have this Victorian thing, you know.
But see, this
It's
was in
gingerbread.
1898.
And he has it there too.
1896 probably,
Victorian.
but this, if I've looked and looked every time I go by, I want to look at that house and see that sort of dormer. Now the porch has been torn off of the side. There's a front porch, but it doesn't go around to the side anymore, and there's a window where that door is. But the lines of the house are still the same. Now this, they tell me that this is Ivy Terrace.
Really? That it
Yes.
started off that way, huh? Yes, Henson Street goes right, because our house was originally on Henson Street. They just made it Shan Street about 5 or 6 years ago.
But see, he built onto the
Now, where is that house now?
That's Ivy Terrace.
Clifford house.
Well, it's changed, that's it. That's what she's saying, that it's changed.
Let me tell you something. The house that the Marcellas bought, the big white house, that was the Henson house. That was the
You mean,
Henson.
in later years, they called it the Rag House, didn't it?
The Rags and the Ropers lived there.
Well, that was the Henson
This
house.
is the one that fell down then, on
Apparently.
the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think.
kept telling
It's-
people
it's
that
falling
didn't
now.
look, that didn't look like the Clifford
That's the one that the Marcellas bought, but that was the Henson house.
was it?
No, that's where the Henson.
Well, I
bought it.
kept telling them that this does not look like Ivy Terrace.
No,
Well,
it
now
doesn't.
that must be headed out, looking out toward town then.
It is.
And the other side of it
You
doesn't
go
look anything
behind
at all
it.
like
You
that.
would go behind it to go to your.
Yeah.
It's on ground level, on the
Yeah.
back side. And then
Yeah.
I can remember when the Marcellas moved, they had
Oh,
a
yes, what a
garage
mess.
sale,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember going up there.
Oh, I remember when they were over there and they were trying to get it painted and everything. We just came for a couple of weeks during the summers then, and